Regular season play in the CFL ends this afternoon. Here in Montreal, it's the Alouettes and Toronto Argonauts.
The following is a live presentation of CBC Sports. The best of Canadian professional football. The CFL on CBC. Welcome to Carling O'Keefe, CFL football. And now, for all the action, let's join our CBC commentary team.
From the Olympic Stadium in Montreal, a chance for the Alouettes to play the role of the spoiler and deny first place in the East to the Argos. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Montreal. Working with me this afternoon, Chuck Ely and Ronnie Lancaster. Ronnie, it's been a long and at times frustrating season for the Montreal Alouettes, but believe it or not, they could finish the year with a 3-3 record playing 500 ball.
Well, I think that's a tribute to the head coach of this club, Gary Durchik. He's had this team play hard, game in, game out for 18 games, and that's what it takes. But I think anytime you look at a football team, it all has to start with defense. And they have a good defense here in Montreal. They're third in the league in both interceptions and quarterback sacks. And everything has to start up front. They get great pressure on the quarterback. Brett Williams, number 71, 20 quarterback sacks. Well, that's a pretty good front four. Now, when you go to the secondary, inexperience is one of the things that's hurt them. But they do have experience on one of the corners in Terry Irvin. He's been written off a few times during his career in the CFL, but last week he intercepted 4 passes. On the year, he has 12. He's a CFL leader, so he's gained and given valuable experience to the rest of those young guys. Offensively, the problem starts right here. Quarterback, inexperience, 2 rookies. Brian Ransom, 24 interceptions to 8 touchdowns. Not good enough. Walter Lewis, 7 interceptions to 3 touchdowns. Not good enough. But the thing is, they have the capability and the ability to have a real good quarterback system down the road. And you need people to throw to. Montreal has thrown to about 15 different receivers this year. The only guy that has been there game in, game out is James Hood. 93 catches during the 86 campaign, up for the most outstanding player in the country. And when they need a big play, this is the guy they're going to go to. They've done it all year. They're not going to change today. I really believe, Steve, they have the opportunity to put a good football club on the field in 1987.
Okay, let's talk about the Toronto Argonauts. Besides getting first place in the CFL East, there's another reason why it's important the Argos should win today.
Well, Steve, the Toronto Argonaut offense has been really struggling, and they need to establish that offensive game that they had earlier in the season. The last half of the season, they've had problems moving that offense. Now you have to go to which quarterback are they going to use? Are they going to go with J.C. Watts or Conridge Holloway? Conridge has been hurt. J.C. has not always been consistent, but last week he came up with a big game where he was able to bring the team back to beat the Montreal Alouettes in the last part of the game. So it's important for both of those guys to get to working and get some action for the playoff situation, as well as use the new receiver that's in there, Keith Baker. Use his experience in there to help them move that offense up and down that field.
Defensively, Christmas has come early for head coach Bob Obilovich. Willie Pless is back in the lineup.
Well, Willie Pless, who's up for the outstanding rookie for the Toronto Argonauts in the league as well, he is an outstanding player. And at 5'10", 210 pounds, he's not a big linebacker, but what he gives away in size, he makes up for an aggressive play and speed. And that quickness should help that defense. You want to get that defense to get that turnovers for the offense so they can have more time and use that offense throughout the game.
Ronnie, for 1 minute, you're the head coach of the Toronto Argonauts. Who do you go with, J.C. Watts or Conridge Holloway?
Very simple. If Conridge Holloway is the guy that's going to win for me down the road, then Conridge Holloway has to play today. You, as a quarterback, you do not get any better sitting on the bench. You only get better by being on the field. If he's the gunner, he's got to play some today.
Okay, the situation is very simple for the Toronto Argonauts. A win or a tie here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal this afternoon, and first place in the CFL East is theirs. Right now, let's go to Brian Williams at CFL Control. Brian?
Thank you, Steve. Hi again, everyone. Welcome to CFL Control in Toronto, the final weekend of regular season play in the Canadian Football League for 1986. One game played last night. It was a big one before a near sellout in Vancouver. The British Columbia Lions in the fourth quarter with a lead of 23-16. They're out of the shotgun. Roy DeWalt goes 86 yards to swerving Mervyn Fernandez. At that point, the Lions were leading 30-16. They go on to win by a score of 36-24. We take a look at the Western standings. The playoff picture is all set in the West. Next Sunday, The Edmonton Eskimos will host the Calgary Stampeders, and next Saturday, in a rematch of last night's game, it'll be the British Columbia Lions home to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Now, coming up at halftime in today's show, we will have a full report from Vancouver. J. Paul McConnell is standing by to bring us up to date on that big game last night, the BC Lions defeating the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We'll talk about the playoff picture in the Canadian Football League, both East and West at halftime with Chuck Ely and Ron Lancaster. Next weekend is also playoff time for the university football teams in this country. We'll look ahead to the university playoffs at halftime. Dr. Frank Cosentino, the head football coach at York University in Toronto, will join me live here in the studio. Stay with us. The CFL on CBC will continue right after this. To CFL Control in Toronto, a sad note today. The popular vice president of the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Hamilton Ticats, Frank King Clancy, is listed in critical condition on a life support system in Toronto. The King underwent an operation for gallbladder removal earlier this week. Frank King Clancy listed in very critical condition today in hospital here in Toronto. This football game today between the Toronto Argonauts and the Montreal Alouettes. In their last 10 meetings, the edge belongs to Toronto. They've won 7 of them. Again, a busy halftime show coming up, but right now we're set for the first half kickoff. Let's go back to Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Once again, Steve Armitage, Chuck Ely, and Ron Lancaster.
For the time being, at least, it's a perfect afternoon weather-wise in Montreal. We've had some rain in the past 24 hours, but right now the skies are clear, and it's a warm day for November 9th, but the wind is gusting, and it could be a factor. The officiating team this afternoon is headed by 49-year-old Bob Bryan from Ottawa, a veteran of 13 seasons and over 200 games in the CFL. Mention the fact that it's a beautiful afternoon here in Montreal, not so great in Winnipeg, where Don Whitman, who was supposed to call this game this afternoon, is still trying to shovel his way out of his house.
Well, I told Don he should have got a John Deere snowblower.
I don't think that would have helped. They've had so much snow in Winnipeg, Ronnie, in the last 24 hours.
I agree with what they're talking about on the telecast. They should stay out in Vancouver for the weekend practice. You're not going to get anything done in that snow.
There's no question about that, but there's no hint of snow here in Montreal this afternoon as Zenon Andrusician gets set to kick off against his former teammates. Dwight Edwards and Willie Miller are deep to receive. And it's Dwight Edwards at the 20, 30, gets a hold. Crosses midfield, he's at the 40, still on his feet, and finally brought down at the 35-yard line by Lloyd Fairbanks. So a good return for the Toronto Argonauts.
Well, that offense is coming back in, starting with J.C. Watts, and William Miller is in there for the injured Cedric Mentor. In the receiving core, you got Keith Baker back in there, and they want to use his experience and a healthy Paul Pearson, which should help. On the offensive line, Mark Napolitan is in there at center in the import.
A 59-yard return setting up a 1st and 10 situation for the Argos. Chris Woods is brought down at the 25-yard line.
Well, the defense has got their backs to the wall right away at the start of the game after a great kickoff return by Dwight Edwards. That's what he's in there for. But we talked about that front four. Doug Scott's healthy now, back at his right defensive end spot. At the linebackers, Will Coakley is new to this league. He'll have his problems today. And in the secondary, Rick Ryan at safety's had an outstanding season for Montreal. So that is a good football club. They got to stop him right now.
A gain of about 9.5 yards on that last play, so make it 2nd down and a half a yard to go for the Argos. We're knocking at the door early. J.C. Watts throws it up in the middle looking for Hudson, and it falls incomplete, but it was a pass that Hudson could well have caught.
Well, Toronto needs to start early, Chuck. If they're going to get the offense, this is the time to do it. Dwight Edwards gave him great field position.
Well, that specialty teams are one of the keys how things are going on, and you want to pay attention to that, especially as the quarterback drops back. So a lot of times you get hit after you throw the ball, and there was a good hit by Williams that time on J.C. Watts.
So that brings up a 3rd down situation, about a half a yard to go. Ronnie, do you gamble at this stage in the game?
I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, you've got some things to prove today, and you got to build confidence, and nothing builds confidence in an offensive line more than going out on the first crucial situation and making a 1st and 10.
Chuck, I would think one of the things that Bob Obilovich would want to establish very quickly would be offensive momentum.
Well, I think no doubt about it, they want to get something going with that offense. They've had problems with that offense. all the last part of the season, and now they want to establish something. I was talking to the quarterbacks before the game. They want to get first downs, get drives, and end up with touchdowns and points. Going into the playoff situation, you want to get that offense going so it's successful in critical situations.
Well, we can tell you it is not the knee that is bothering Warren Hudson right now. He appears to have been cut over the eye. Toronto training staff on the field. And Hudson is making his way to the bench all by himself. Doesn't appear to be too badly shaken up.
Well, they're getting some good work out of Warren Hudson. And they also got Bob Bronk, who is an excellent running back that they can use in there.
Bronk has gone into the game to replace Hudson. Third down, less than a yard to go for the first down. And they give it to Miller. Miller has the first down with a couple of yards to spare. So that offensive momentum is maintained, at least for the time being.
You know, when you get into short yardage situations, the whole key comes down to the initial charge. You know the snap count you should get off. But here's the key. They have got to take these two gaps away from them, so therefore Miller will cut back to the outside.
Willie Miller picking up the first down for the Argos. Back to the live action. J.C. Watts has the pass blocked at the line of scrimmage. It was tipped by Sandy Armstrong, but it was almost pulled in by Keith Baker. He got a piece of it, but he couldn't hang on.
Well, they were trying to throw that hitch screen to Keith Baker and get him running up the field. You want to do something as a quarterback to establish some confidence builders, and those short passes quick can also break all the way for touchdowns.
So it's a 2nd and 10 situation for the Argos. They spot the ball at the 23-yard line of the Montreal Alouettes. No score, first quarter action here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. First place on the line for the Argos. J.C. Watts. And it's taken neatly on the sidelines by Pearson, but the referee is over there to rule no catch. He was out of bounds.
Well, I'll tell you, you got to come back and catch that football. I think that he's wide open over there. When you take a look, there's nobody in the picture. Come back, make sure you're in bounds and catch it. I think coming back even to the inside and come back toward the quarterback, you can cut that angle down. But I think you got to catch those kind.
Well, that brings on Lance Chomick, who's been nominated by the Argos in 2 categories for Shenley, Outstanding Canadian and Most Valuable Player. And Chomick's field goal attempt is good. So the Argos go in front of the Montreal Alouettes by a score of 3-0 early in the first quarter here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal.
Catch all the excitement of the Western semifinals. You'll see both games live on CBC Saturday and Sunday, November 15th and 16th.
Well, Chuck Ely and I will be in Edmonton for one of the Western semifinals next weekend. Ronnie Lancaster will travel to Vancouver and be joined by Don Whitman, providing, of course, he has his highway or his driveway shoveled out by then. But Don Whitman will be in BC with Ron Lancaster for their half of the Western semifinal. Looking forward to both of those games. A 30-yard field goal by Lance Chomick has put the Argos in front of the Montreal Alouettes, 3-0 for Chomick. His 36th field goal of the season, came into the game with 145 points. Has had an outstanding season for the Argos. Chomick getting set to kick off following that field goal. Faulkner and Treflin receiving for Montreal. This is Treflin, 35. And tripped up just shy of the 40-yard line by number 15, Cliff Hewitt.
Well, this is the inexperienced group. This is where all the changes have taken place. Brian Ransom, the rookie, starts at quarterback, hopefully to go the entire football game. Receivers, Jock Chapdelain's had an excellent year with over 50 catches this year for Montreal. And along the offensive line, 5 years experience up there. And as Coach Turchik said yesterday, they're back the way they wanted to be. They finally gotten rid of the injuries up there.
1st and 10 Alouettes from their own 40-yard line. They trail 3-0. Flag goes down. Early action at the line of scrimmage. Is it a time count violation, perhaps?
Yeah, no doubt. When from the referee that threw the flag is the man in the secondary, and he looked right at that 20-second clock, and he made the call.
Time count violation, number 6, Montreal. First down repeated.
That's exactly what it is. Too long putting the ball into play. So they're penalized 5 yards. Make it 1st and 15 for the Alouettes and their young quarterback Brian Ransom. Ransom going long, looking for James Hood, and the ball is knocked away by Kerry Parker.
Good defense by Kerry Parker. He just kept himself between the receiver and the defensive back. And now as you begin to take a look at what they're doing with their defensive line, you got Harding that's playing very well in there, as well as Gerald Bayless. On the linebacker coach, they're very happy to have Willie Pless back there. He can add so much to him, and as he mentioned before, he's up for the rookie player. In the defensive secondary, you have the experience back there of Carl Brazeley, who leads the way, and Kerry Parker, who just made that outstanding defensive play.
Brazeley, one of the leaders in the interception category in the CFL. He has 6.
Both their corners have 6, Steve, and that's the experience factor. Brazeley and Parker. Parker played that play very well. He had the inside position all the way and just got that hand up and batted it down.
So it's 2nd down at 15. The ball at the 35-yard line. Ransom under pressure. Just dumps it off, looking for Tony Johns. It's incomplete. Good pressure there from Gerald Bayless.
Yeah, they only came with 4 men, and they put the pressure on Ransom, and it looks like a lousy throw on his part because it hits the ground. But the big thing, he doesn't take another 10 or 12-yard loss, and it allows him to punt the ball away, and he didn't turn it over.
We pointed out at the beginning of the game, of course, Montreal's playoff chances ended some time ago. They are very definitely playing for positions next year. Brazeley and Dwight Edwards. This is Dwight Edwards with the ball. Taking that transition punt and going nowhere. He's stopped just inside the 30-yard line by Matt Finley.
Well, Dwight Edwards is very happy to get back in the game. He's been on the sidelines most of the year, not playing at all. And they get a call the other day to come in and try out. And I talked to him at the airport, and he's looking forward to coming up with a big game or the opportunity to play some more.
Toronto Argonauts have won both games against the Alouettes this season, 2012 in Montreal, and of course last weekend 25-21 at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto. 1st and 10 Argos. They pitch to Willie Miller. Miller gets across the 30-yard line, dropped by Brett Williams.
Well, we talk about Brett Williams all the time and his speed and quickness. He can just about beat anybody one-on-one on the line of scrimmage, and he hustles on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And I guess that's why he calls himself the toaster, because he can do it both on the offense as well as the defense at times.
Although he's downplaying that toaster thing now. I guess he wants to be known more as a defensive player than an offensive player.
Well, he's not going to shatter any world records in 100 or anything. I think he should be a defensive ball player. That's what he is.
2nd and 8 for the Argos. A sea of flags go down as J.C. Watts goes long. It is incomplete. It was intended for Pearson.
I'll tell you right now, if they call pass interference on Montreal, that's a disgrace. That is an excellent defensive play. He went up high to get the football.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flags down on the field.
It is a joke. Look, it looks like a diamond.
Here's the call from Bob Bryant.
Procedure, Toronto number 64, defensive forward pass interference, Montreal, down repeated, 2nd down.
Chris Schultz, the guilty party for the Argos. Second down. J.C. Watts, good protection that time. Overthrows Pearson. Incomplete, so a punting situation for Toronto.
Well, J.C. Watts and the Toronto Argonaut offense need to get themselves established with the offensive game. You know, you talk about what comes first, to run on the pass or which one you want to establish. They need to establish anything that's going to work for them, because they're going into a situation in 2-game total points, and they've got to have offense going, and they've got to start it here today.
That's not a good sign for the Argos. Ferrone limping off. They need his playoff experience starting next weekend against Hamilton. Hank Alessic, CFL's leading punter, standing at his own 11. And he didn't hit that one the way he wanted, but it's fumbled and then recovered by Treflin, just shy of the midfield stripe. So once again, the Alouettes will have good field position for the offense.
Well, Toronto hasn't been able to establish anything offensively except for the kickoff return by Dwight Edwards. Montreal didn't get anything at all going on their first couple of plays, but they've got good field position. They've got nothing to lose. I think they pull out the stops, and let's see if we can get something established from them.
They spot the ball at the 53-yard line of the Owls. For Montreal, are 1st and 10. This is Faulkner. And Faulkner gets into Toronto territory down at the 52-yard line by Marlon Jones.
Well, I think Sean Faulkner has been a well-needed addition to this Montreal Alouette offense. He's the type of running back that just slashes and runs straight ahead and runs very hard with it, like he's going to get a touchdown every time you carry it. And I tell my son who likes to play running back, I says, you just run every time like you're going to get a touchdown and run hard, and you'll produce.
2nd and 5. Ransom in and out of the arms of the intended receiver, Gerald Alpha.
Well, that's a perfect example of any time a receiver comes into the middle to catch a football, there's going to be a collision. They got a lot of linebackers in there, and that's just exactly what happened. When the ball arrived, they arrived, and it makes it pretty difficult on that receiver to hold on. But he may as well catch it because he's going to get hit anyway.
That's what you look for in an inside receiver, the ability to hang on to that ball once you're hit, because you know you're going to get hit 9 times out of 10 coming through the middle.
If he doesn't get hit, then those linebackers aren't doing their job.
Zenon Andrusician getting set to punt for Montreal. Bit of a wide snap, handled well by Andrusician, taken by Brazeley at the 12. Brazeley looking for some running room and going nowhere, forced out of bounds at about the 20-yard line. So the Argos are still in front of the Montreal Alouettes here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal by a score of 3-0. Bob Obilovich pacing the Toronto sidelines. Can't be too happy with his offensive performance so far.
No, he wants to get something established. Like at the press conference yesterday, he made it very clear he wants offense out of this game today in order to gain momentum going into the playoffs. So he's going to want to get it going in a hurry.
And that man just wants to see his team continue to develop the way they have over the last month.
Well, Gary knows that he's had some problems through the season with the young players, and he believes that they have the talent that they could be contenders, especially next year.
1st and 10 Argos from their own 20-yard line. They lead 3-0. They give it to Willie Miller. Miller has a hole, still on his feet. Miller fights his way up to the 34-yard line before he's blocked.
Well, they've got to have that kind of running out of Willie Miller or any of the running backs on the Toronto Argonaut offense, because they're getting a lot of pressure on those quarterbacks. Now, as you see here, if you can get some running game going in a draw and it opens up a hole like that, that slows down the rush of that defensive front four and gives that quarterback a little more time to throw the ball.
A pickup of 14 yards for Willie Miller. Another 1st down for the Argos. J.C. Watts on the screen to Miller. And Miller forced out of bounds at the 40-yard line.
Well, that's not a bad play either. Come back with a running play, come back with a draw, or a screen or a draw. This time it's a screen. It'll do the same thing that Chuck's talking about with the run. If you can get a screen going, the lineman can't rush as hard, and it'll take the heat off the quarterback later. But the big thing, they're moving the football. They got 7 or so yards with it.
I think that's one problem with the Toronto Argonauts offense over the past month has been the lack of diversity. 2nd down situation. This time they swing it out to Hudson. Hudson crosses the 40. Had to get up to about the 44-yard line for the 1st down. Doug Scott was in there to make the stop.
I think one of the things, too, is that with the Toronto Argonaut offense at the beginning of the year, they seem to be using more of the run and shoot style. Now, halfway through the season, they seem to have made a change where they're using a lot more drop back, taking a lot more time to get rid of the ball, and that in itself causes for a lot of sacks to be made on the quarterback, not necessarily because of the offensive line, but because of the times of the patterns that have to be run down the field.
Ronnie, why have they got away from the run and shoot?
Well, I think, let's be honest about it, Connor Holloway's lost that mobility that you have to have in order to run and shoot. Plus, I don't think that with the new coaches that came in this year, they don't believe in the run and shoot. I think teams have caught up with that thing, and they've gotten away from it. And I think that's it. They just got away from it about 6 games into the season.
The Argos are a yard short of picking up the first down. They have elected to punt. Alesic standing at his own 30. Good punt this time from Alesic. This is David Martin at his own 15. And he's tripped up at the 28-yard line by Dan Rasevich.
Well, one of the areas that you want to try to develop that many people don't pay attention to is your specialty teams. Try to get those guys performing both from the standpoint from Toronto Argonauts kicking and defending against a punt return and the Montreal Alouettes trying to return it. So watch the specialty teams this afternoon and see how well both teams are doing.
That was a 51-yard punt from Alesic. A 13-yard return setting up a 1st and 10 situation for the Alouettes, who trail 3-0. Hood has it. Looking for some running room inside, finds some running room, gets up to the 40-yard line. Cliff Hewitt is dropping.
That's a good play. The big thing was Kerry Parker did what Kerry Parker should do. If Hood's going to catch that screen, make him come back inside where he's got the defensive help as they pursued the football, but they didn't get out there quick enough, and he got through and got a first down. So he did his part. The defense just didn't get there quick enough.
An 11-yard pickup for that man, James Hood, who needs 7 receptions to reach the 100-yard or 100 reception area. This is Tony Johns. Johns with some running room. Gets to the 50-yard line. Darryl Moyer over there to make the tackle for the Argos.
I've been able to watch Montreal all through the season, and Tony Johns has come up and impressed me quite a bit during the year. He doesn't run that often, but when it gets to him, he puts forth a lot of effort. He's a good, strong running back, and he gets the opportunity to read the hole, and he makes an excellent cut here on a read where they turn him inside. He finds that he can't go outside, so he just cuts it up inside, letting his blockers pick up the man and pick up as many yards as possible.
2nd and short. Brian Ransom on the quarterback sneak. All he had to do was get to the 50-yard line for the first down. And they have the first down with about a half a yard to spare, so Ransom keeps the drive alive. Not the best of games for Brian Ransom last weekend against the Argos. The game the Argos won in dramatic fashion, 25-21. Ransom wants to go long, looking for Hood. And it's knocked away by Carl Brazeley. Good coverage on the part of Brazeley.
Well, so far he's tested Parker on one side with a deep one to Hood and come right back and test Brazeley with a deep one, and both of them have had the inside opposition. Watch Hood try to come back inside. Good defense by Brazeley. Keep the body between the man and the ball. That way they can't catch it.
And turn around again. It was a good defense by Hood coming back and making sure that Brazeley didn't take it on the interception.
That was the Argos' record against the pass this season. 2nd and 10, Montreal. Ransom. This time to Faulkner. Faulkner's got a wide open sideline. Faulkner knocked out of bounds inside the 15-yard line. Cliff Hewitt.
Well, that's just somebody on the Toronto Argonauts defense made a mistake. There's no way anybody should ever be this wide open. Well, we'll watch Sean Faulkner come out into the flat to the left side of the screen. Now watch when he catches the football. There's not a white jersey anywhere to be found, and it's just a jaunt down the sidelines. He got a good block down there, but there were 2 of them, and they couldn't get them both down. And otherwise, he walks into the end zone. That's just a mistake.
A costly mistake it was. The pitch to Faulkner. I'm surprised he's got any energy left after that romp down the sidelines. He gets down to just shy of the 5-yard line.
Those athletes are in shape. Normally, a quarterback would not come back and give the football to a running back that's just run that far with the ball. Like the way Brian Ransom says, hey, if he's in the game, he's okay.
I guess maybe he figured the Toronto defense might be thinking the same thing. They wouldn't give it to Faulkner after that long run.
See, they just took Faulkner out of the ball game. They're going to let him catch his breath here for a minute.
2nd down for the Alouettes. The ball's at the 6-yard line. Ransom. Intended for Tony Johns and is knocked away by Darryl Wilson, number 13 in the Argos.
Well, that's been the problem with Montreal all year long. They move the ball from their own 20 down the other team's 20 and cannot capitalize and get a touchdown, and sometimes even lose the 3 points on the situation. You've got to be able to take advantage of those situations and come up with the touchdowns. When Brian Ransom threw the ball out there, he threw it slightly behind Johns, and that almost could have been picked off and taken all the way for a touchdown.
if Wilson gets his hands on that one, he was gone because there was nobody there and he'd have been in full flight, and it was just because, as you say, Chuck thrown behind him.
Talk about a wide open sideline. Wilson would have had that. Now Andrew Zisha will attempt the field goal from the 13-yard line. That's a chip shot for the Big Z. Puts it through the uprights to tie this game at 3. We'll be back with more from the Olympic Stadium in Montreal right after this.
Next Saturday night, Jacques Demers brings his Detroit Red Wings into Toronto to meet the much-improved Maple Leafs of John Brophy. Meanwhile, in Montreal, it'll be Buffalo and the Canadiens. Last week, the Sabres, after their worst start in history, replaced Scotty Bowman with Craig Ramsey. Check local listings for game and time in your area next Saturday night.
There you see a few stats from what has been a rather sluggish first quarter offensively for both teams.
Yeah, the big play on Montreal was that pass to Faulkner out in the flat. That was the big one.
First and 10 for the Argos. And they'll scrimmage from their own 35-yard line. We're tied at 3. First place at stake for the Argos this afternoon. All they need is a win or a tie. J.C. Watts with lots of time going deep. Looking for Chris Woods, and it's almost intercepted by Terry Irvin. And that would have been interception number 13 for Irvin had he been able to hang on.
Well, last week they tried Irvin 4 or 5 times, and he came up with 4 interceptions and almost the 5th one. And they still haven't had enough of him yet. They're trying to go to him again, and he almost picked off another one. As he's down there, he's got himself well positioned. Terry Irvin makes good reads. He drops back, he looks at the receiver going down the field, and takes his eye off when that guy looks back for the ball like a defensive back's supposed to do.
That's the experience factor. He's been around a while. You learn that as time goes on.
Second and 10 now, Argos. Flag goes down. That is complete to Keith Baker, and Baker is forced out of bounds at the 51-yard line. But we'll have to wait and see what the flag was all about.
That was the gamble. Steve Benjamin took the gamble. When the ball's thrown out there, he decided he was going to go in front, try for the interception. It got over his head. Now, if they stay in bounds, they may score on it. But you have to have that confidence in your ability. Steve Benjamin felt he could get it.
There's offsides on the Montreal Alouettes, and that's a good play for the Toronto Argonauts. Now they've got a first down and almost at center field, and they want to establish a drive here and come up with a touchdown, I know.
They place the ball at the 52-yard line. J.C. Watts gives to William Miller, and Miller comes up short of the midfield stripe. Will Coakley in there to make the tackle for the Alouettes.
Yeah, they're going to be offside again. I believe they're going to call Montreal for moving again. We'll have to wait and see.
The toaster, Brett Williams, called on the offside.
Well, Montreal are doing some shifting in that defensive line, and in the process, Brett Williams jumped off sides.
First and 5 Argos on the Montreal 53. They give to Miller. Miller crosses the 50-yard line, gets down to about the 49. Again, the Argos content to mix up their plays, and I think it's important that they be able to do this going into the playoffs, establish a ground game, setting up the passing game. Less than a yard to go for the first down. They spot the ball at the 49-yard line. They get to Miller. Miller should have the first down with about a half a yard to spare. Runs into Will Coakley and Ken Cianconi.
Well, when you see the ball carrier start upfield and then cut back, that's the job of the weak side or backside linebacker, in this case, Ken Cianconi. When the action goes away from him, he moves in closer to the center, and if they cut back, he should be there, and that's where he was.
The Argos have a pretty good road record this season. They're 4-4 on the road. The Alouettes are 3-5 at home. But those 3 victories at home were over Edmonton, BC, and Saskatchewan. Some pretty good teams. Chris Woods with the reception for the Argos. And I believe he's going to lose about a yard and a half on the play. Defense read that play perfectly.
Well, that's a quick screen that you want to throw out to the flankers. In a lot of cases, that gets shut down. But if it ever happens that a receiver like Chris Woods gets some room and gets started there, he could take that thing all the way.
The ball moving all by itself. It is gusty here at the Olympic Stadium, where the wind is not normally a factor. It's a swirling type of wind. It's a beautiful afternoon for football. You certainly couldn't fault the weather for lack of attendance here at the Olympic Stadium. J.C. Watts in the shotgun formation. 2nd and 11. Watts is in the grip of Williams. He gets the pass away, but I believe they're going to rule he was dead before he threw it.
Well, that's a dangerous pass for J.C. to take a throw away like that. Even though he was caught down in the situation, just don't throw that ball up for grabs for them to pick up.
Well, they had a blitz on that time, Chuck, and they came after him in a little bit of a game, and Brett Williams swings around and then does what he does best. That's get to that quarterback, and as you say, don't throw that ball away when you're in the grasp of the defender. You never know whether the referee will blow it dead or someone intercepts it and runs for 6.
So that brings on Hank Alesic, the Argos punter, averaging 48.8 yards per punt coming into this game. Treflin on the run at the 30. And he's brought down at the 40-yard line by Hewitt. So again, the Montreal Alouettes offense will have good field position.
Well, Brian Ransom has got to get him going and get something happening there with that offense with points on the board. He has good arm at 6'3", 200 pounds. He has good ability to stand back there in the pocket and read and throw the ball. But he just got to capitalize and take advantage of that secondary where you can and come up with touchdowns.
1st and 10, Montreal at their own 40-yard line. We're tied at 3. Still in the first quarter. Tony Johns picks up a couple of yards through the middle. Marlon Jones and Gerald Bayless in there to make the stop for the Argonauts. And there goes the gun to end the first quarter of play here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. We're tied at 3. To the Olympic Stadium.
First quarter copy stats, not a whole lot of offense, but 83 yards in offense for Montreal, and most of that coming on one big play where Brian Ransom was able to go back and look out into the flat. You'll see number 36, Sean Faulkner. He will catch the football without any Toronto Argonaut around. This is a mistake by a defense. Nobody should ever be this wide open. There should be a jersey somewhere, and now it's just for him to run down the field, gets it down close. Toronto defense stiffened, and they had to kick the field goal, but 44 yards on that play, and Montreal had 83 yards of offense, so most of it was right there.
That's not the kind of offensive performance that both coaches wanted from their teams this afternoon.
Well, they both wanted to come up big with some offensive plays and some drives that ended in touchdowns and get points on the board.
It's important for Toronto going into that 2-game Eastern Final total point series to really establish that offense.
Well, Bob Village really wanted to get that offense going because he knows the playoff situation.
This is what you do on the bench when you don't have anything else to do. It's hard to believe. I think that's David Martin, a defensive back. He's clipping his fingernails.
I've never seen that in a game before. A first in the CFL. Nail clipping on the sidelines.
I guess he doesn't want to puncture the ball.
Or something like that. Gerald Alford picking up the first down for the Alouettes on that pass from Brian Ransom. Clipping your nails on the sidelines. Oh, I don't believe it. Next, they'll have a team manicurist. 1st and 10. They pitch to Faulkner. Faulkner fumbles. It's a free ball. The Argos scoop it up. Gary Parker. Touchdown, Toronto.
Well, that's the way to be alert as far as Kerry Parker is concerned. He just read the play after the hit was made on by the linebacker on Faulkner. He fumbled it. He just read it, picked it up, and just took it all the way into the end zone. Because when you run that pitch out, you just got to hold on to that ball. Linebackers and defensive people come up in force, and he just knees it out of his hand. He really wasn't hit. and then Kerry Parker being totally alert, picked up the ball, ran it all the way in the end zone. But I'd rather for him to hold the ball until he got there before somebody knocks it out of his hand.
Would you call that the Argo bounce? The ball just happened to bounce up into Kerry Parker's hands as he's arriving. That's unfortunate, as you say, Chuck. Nobody hit him. He put the ball away.
What he did was it hit his knee as he was trying to go over one of the down linemen. The convert attempt is good. So the Toronto Argonauts go in front of the Montreal Alouettes by a score of 10-3.
Well, as a running back, you want to take that ball and you want to tuck it away. And when you're swinging out there, he's holding it in one hand. And when that happens, he brought his knee up and just kicked the ball out of his own hand. And Kerry Parker was right there to pick it up. You've got to tuck that ball away. The running backs that run with that ball hanging out in one hand, it's a very dangerous way to run. And those type of things are what can happen. And you tell young players and young running backs that I work with a lot of times, hey, put that ball away when you start feeling the contact and the pressure gets close.
For Kerry Parker, his first touchdown of the season. The play covered 55 yards, and the Argos get the touchdown they were looking for. It wasn't from their offense, but I'm sure that Bob Obilovich and company will take it.
Take it any way you can. You know, you don't really care who puts the ball in the end zone. You just want it there. If you have to get some big plays from your defense during the course of a game to win, and that's a big one.
And that will bring on Lance Chomick, who is having a little difficulty teeing it up here with the gusting wind. Just won't stay on the tee, but he finally gets it anchored. So following the touchdown, Chomick will kick off. Faulkner and Treflin are the deep men for the Alouettes, taken by Treflin at the 20. Looking for some running room on the left side, and he's dropped at the 36-yard line by Jeff Watson.
Jeff Watson is a rookie from St. Mary's who tried out with the Hamilton Tiger Cats and was released there and is caught on with Toronto. He put a good hit on Jeff Treflin just as he tried to cut back inside.
Speaking of St. Mary's, they will be hosting the Atlantic Bowl next weekend. Western against Acadia. And in Lennoxville, it'll be the Bishop's Gators against the UBC Thunderbirds. The winners from those two games going on to the Vanier Cup, Canadian College Championship. Ransom with some time. In and out of the arms of Hood, and we haven't seen him do that too many times this season.
Yeah, what we've got to see right now is for Brian Ransom one. I don't know how soon he'll come back to it, but he'll pump that ball to Ransom, and he had Alfred turned down the field deep about 30 yards behind everybody, but he just didn't see him.
Well, what Alfred did was he ran into the flat and let Hood break underneath him, sort of a drag delay pattern, and then he cut back up the field and he was wide open.
Ooh.
The Gremlins are at work here at Olympic Stadium. The time clock is out, so we'll have to do it by hand. We'll keep you informed. A great move by Stiegel to pull that in. Touchdown!
You know, Steve, a lot of times when a team plays a zone defense, they are lulled into a false sense of security. Hewitt that time had deep outside responsibility and just didn't get there, and then when he got there, he wasn't in a position to play the ball. Stiegel played the ball, and the rest is history. You're going to get a good look at it. Watch the ball high up in the air. Now watch Hewitt. His back will be turned. He won't be looking at the ball. Stiegel come back underneath, and now it's a race. He wins hands down. Big play from Montreal to come back after a Toronto touchdown.
And come back they have. This convert attempt will tie the game at 10. 74-yard pass and run play for the Alouettes to make it 10-9. And Zenon and Druzisha will try to make it 10-all. And it's a happy Montreal bench. And well, it should be. And that has been the trademark of this club all season long. They've been down and out in a lot of ball games, but they always scrap back to get back in it. And we are now tied at 10 here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. The Alouettes 10, the Argos 10.
Reminding you to stay with CBC Sports for all the excitement of Grey Cup 86. Saturday, November 29th, we'll have the parade live from Vancouver. I'll be in Vancouver as we anchor Sports Weekend live from under the dome. Then, of course, Sunday afternoon, November 30th, it is Grey Cup 86. We will have a special 90-minute pregame show followed by the game itself. As usual, for the best in sports, the best in Canadian football, CBC Sports is the place to be.
Well, when you're defensive back in playing in the zone, you want to be back there in position to have yourself set where you can look in and read. This time, Cliff Hewitt was running back there to get into his zone area and got caught looking for the ball and got beat.
When you're in that zone, Chuck, you're right. You get back there and get turned around, look at the quarterback. He didn't do it. So as a result, this is what you get after a touchdown, a kickoff.
In transition with a very difficult kickoff. Dwight Edwards. Oh, and Edwards is just bumped by Sandy Armstrong. What a great hit from Armstrong.
Well, when you get a lot of speed coming down the field and speed coming the other way, you're going to get a hit like that every now and then. And when you got Sandy Armstrong that weighs about 270, Dwight Edwards weighs about 175, this is going to be the result. Watch it. You're not going to win many of those battles if you're the running back.
And what a great, clean hit. Nice to see. First and 10 Argos. Willie Miller looking for some running room on the left side. Tripped up at the 40-yard line by Will Copeland.
Well, that Argonaut offense still hasn't been able to establish himself on what things they want to do. Now, whether we're going to see Conrad Holloway earlier in this quarter or later in the second half, I don't know. But if he's going to be expected to play the playoffs, he's going to have to get into some of this hot action as well.
Pickup of 2 on that last play, so it'll be 2nd and 8 for the Argos. The ball spotted just shy of their own 41-yard line. We're tied at 10. JC with some time, runs out of the pocket. Fires across the flow, and it's complete. Chris Woods brings it down just shy of Montreal territory. Ken Cianconi over there to make the stop.
Well, that's the thing that J.C. Watts has that Conrad Holloway used to have, the ability to get out, scramble, and make things happen. And he scrambled to his right and threw the ball back across the field because he bought time. He was able to look around. And that's the thing that Coach Obilovich wants J.C. Watts for, his mobility.
Paul Pearson was wide open at around the 20-yard line. I wonder if J.C. Watts saw him. It's time to get to Miller. Miller with an opening. Gets to the 50-yard line before he's tripped up.
Well, they haven't really gone away from their game plan, which is good right now. The score is 10-10 in the first half. They wanted to try to get prepared in using their running game. They haven't really had a running game or any kind of game offensively the last 4 or 5 games of the season, and they want to establish that running game where they can take advantage of the rush of the defensive line and do some more passing effectively.
Pickup of close to 6 yards, make it 2nd and 4. J.C. Watts under pressure, he fumbles. It's scooped up by Williams. Montreal recover.
The kind of thing you don't really want to happen. You know, you start a drive going and something breaks down. If it's not a holding penalty against the Toronto Argonauts, it's something like this, a fumble or interception.
Well, as you're a quarterback, you take a look at the linebackers. They start to move up before. When you see that, you better know you're going to get some pressure. And the pressure comes on the run. J.C. Watts has the ball, and he gets hit by number 37, Mac Finley, who's the #1 draft choice of the Alouettes last year. He causes the fumble. Brett Williams recovers, and Montreal's in business.
2 interceptions and 20 sacks coming into this game. Now he can add a fumble recovery to his list of impressive accomplishments. Marlon Jones with the sack there for the Argos.
That time, Brian Ransom was going to come back with a deep pass pattern against the Toronto Argonauts, and he had Stiegel running a down and out and up the field. What happened is the Toronto Argonauts fell back into the zone, and he took a sharp drop, hoping to throw the ball quick, and couldn't release it.
A gain of just over 1 on the play. 2nd and 9. Ransom intercepted by the Argos. Marshall tripped up at the 50-yard line. So tit for tat.
Well, you know how we talk about his own defense before with Cliff Hewitt. Get back, get set, look at the quarterback. Now watch number 73, the middle linebacker, Marshall. Look at him. He's looking at the quarterback. Now he just starts the other way. When the quarterback cocks his arm, he goes, and as you see the result, right into his hands. That's the way you play defense, but from a quarterback standpoint, you don't like it too well.
A turnover for the Argos. A few plays ago, it was a turnover for the Montreal Alouettes. So the Argos back on offense. 1st and 10 from their own 51. Good protection for J.C. Watts. Now he decides he's going to run with it. And he's tripped up at the midfield stripe as he attempted to get into Montreal territory. Ken Cianconi was over there to make the stop.
Well, what a season David Marshall has had for the Toronto Argonauts. He's their leading tackler with 103 tackles this season, but he's got 2 interceptions, 3 sacks. He's now got 3 interceptions. He's had an outstanding season for Toronto.
He has been one of the busier defensive players for the Argos throughout the season. One of their more consistent players. Always around the ball. Quick throw by J.C. Watts there to Darryl Smith. And that's good for the first down.
Well, Darryl Smith just broke out from his inside slot position to the flat, and J.C. hit him in the man-to-man coverage, hit him right on the button, and that's what you got to do. You've got to be able to come up when you have 2nd and 6 and 2nd and 5 with a play to keep the drive going. Don't miss the pass. Don't drop it. Don't overthrow it. Come up and complete it. Come up with the first down and keep things going.
1st and 10 Argos from the Montreal 45-yard line. Again, lots of time for J.C. Watts. Looking for William Miller on the left sidelines, but it's incomplete.
Had a lot of time to throw the football. Offensive line gave him good protection. He was able to stand in the pocket, look around, decide where he was going to go with it. It just didn't work out.
Well, the Toronto Argonauts quarterbacks have been sacked 100 times before this game over the season. And the reason is they've developed their patterns to start a lot longer, and their drops and their patterns are a lot deeper.
You think they're a little gun shy? 2nd and 10 Argos. Over the middle. And he was looking for Pearson. A couple of flags go down. Pearson indicating interference.
Yeah, that's what we're going to get. He tried to go downfield and turn to the inside, and one of the Montreal defensive backs interfered with him. And as a result, Toronto's going to get the first down.
Number 13, Montreal, first down.
David Martin interfered with Paul Pearson. And Coach Obilovich was talking a lot about Paul Pearson yesterday at the press conference, that he is finally healthy, and they're going to need all the healthy bodies they can get in that 2-game series with Hamilton.
1st and 10 Argos from the 33-yard line of Montreal. They give to Miller. And Miller is tripped up at the 27-yard line by Will Coakley.
Well, they've been running that sprint draw action, and with his intent to take the ball back to William Miller and let him find a hole on his read and make it big to the outside. Look for the hole as William Miller runs through the hole, looking for an area to run the ball and pick up as many yards as possible. Doing that, it sort of slows down that rush of that defensive front four, who know when they drop back, they've been normally throwing the ball.
Well, they spot the ball at the 25-yard line, where it's now 2nd and about 3.5 for the Argos. Miller with a big hole. Miller down to the 15-yard line. Finally brought down by Steve Benjamin.
That was a good job of execution by the Toronto Argonauts. You're going to see the toss outside to William Miller. They had the blitz from the inside. He gets a good block by Chris Schultz, number 64. And then Miller, with good balance, takes it down. Steve Benjamin has to hit and hold on to keep him from going the distance.
So it's 1st and 10. J.C. Watts puts it up in and out of the arms of Smith. And the ball may have been tipped before it got to Smith, and that may have distracted him somewhat. I'm making an excuse for him there.
Well, the ball was slightly thrown behind him, but that's certainly a catchable ball for anybody in the professional league to get up there and get a hold of that ball. And you've got to come up with those big plays.
Spoken like a true quarterback. Any ball that's thrown can be caught, right?
Get their hands on it, they should catch it.
I'm surrounded by quarterbacks here, folks. 2nd and 10 for the Argos. Ball just outside the 15-yard line of Montreal. We're tied at 10. J.C. Watts dropped for loss at the 20-yard line. Mac Finley getting through and bringing down the Toronto quarterback.
Well, here we go again. The Toronto Argonauts move down the field, and all of a sudden, they get into a situation where they can score a touchdown, and they're not able to come up with it. This is the type of thing that Coach Obilovich was concerned about, that they move the ball and not be able to come up with the touchdowns.
And this was the sort of thing that plagued the Montreal Alouettes all season long. They could move the ball well down to about the 10 or 15-yard line, couldn't put it into the end zone. Andrew Zishin. will attempt this field goal from the Mekat Chomik. Andrusician used to kick for the Argos. Chomik puts it through. So the Toronto Argonauts go in front of the Montreal Alouettes by a score of 13-10. Lots of time remaining to play in the second quarter. And don't forget, Ron Lancaster and Don Whitman will be at BC Place Stadium in Vancouver for the Winnipeg BC game. Chuck Ely and I.
You can't hear what they're talking about, but that's Ellis Rainsberger, the offensive line coach, talking with Dan Ferrone, Chris Schultz, the offensive lineman. They're discussing blocking patterns. Whenever you see those meetings, they're having some trouble with somebody, and they're trying to straighten it out.
Can't you read lips?
No, I can't even hear or understand.
1st and 10 Alouettes. The ball at the 35-yard line following the Toronto field goal. Faulkner up to the 40.
Well, one of those jobs of those linebackers is to drop back and also make that read. And you know, Willie Pless is added back in that lineup, and he's been a good addition to that Toronto Argonaut defense before he got injured. Now he's back in. They're looking for some great work out of him, and they're going to get it because he's quick and he's always got a nose for the football.
A gain of 5, make it 2nd and 5 for the Owls. Quick out to Hood. And Hood made the reception, but didn't pick up any yardage. In fact, he may have lost a yard or two. Braisley read that perfectly.
That's quickness by Carl Braisley. He reads that receiver coming off the line, and he just took one step. And when he took that step and came back, Braisley came up as fast and hard and under control and was able to cut the legs out from under him. That takes care of that. That ends up in no gain at all.
3rd and 8, and that does bring on Zenon Andrusician, who will get this away from his own 25-yard line. Braisley and Edwards deep to receive this punt. Almost blocked. Braisley goes down wisely, perhaps just shy of the midfield stripe. Wes Cooper in there to make the tackle.
Well, looking at Zenon Andrusician, he's a good actor here. He wanted to try to get that roughing the kicker after he punted that ball. There was a little bit of contact on him, but not enough to make the call to be made. All these kickers have the ability to do some great acting performance, and this is one of them.
Boy, that drops a little high on the part of the big Z, isn't it? Maybe the old leg can't get up there to beat the ball. First and 10 for the Argos. Ball at the 54-yard line. Miller breaks the initial tackle. Good effort on the part of Miller to get down to the 47-yard line. Rick Ryan over there to make the stop for Montreal.
Well, everybody in Toronto keeps talking about Cedric Minner getting healthy. You know, the big thing, why worry about Cedric Minner getting healthy? William Miller is a capable football player. Watch him right here. Watch the effort. He breaks that tackle, gets outside, got good determination, takes the hit by Rick Ryan, keeps fighting. Finally, they pull him down. He may have to go for him next week, and he'd love to do that, so he's trying to win himself a job today.
2nd and 1. And they go to Miller again, and Miller has the first down. Brett Williams there to meet Miller.
Well, Miller is just putting, like Ronnie said, some outstanding effort into his runs. He has a hole, but he's getting a lot of extra yards by his own individual effort, and that's what they've been looking for in their running backs for a while. They let Craig Ellis go earlier in the year, later in the season, about 4 or 5 games ago, and now they went to Cedric Minner, and he got injured, and now they're back into using Willie Miller.
1st and 10 for Toronto. On the Montreal 46-yard line. The Argos lead 13-10. Second quarter here in Montreal. J.C. Watts with all day to pass. And he's still on his feet. And now he's got some blocking. And he couldn't make up his mind whether he wanted to pass it or run with it.
You take enough hits like he took there, and it'll make up your mind for you in a hurry.
Rayford Cooks over to make the tackle on the elusive J.C. Watts.
Well, you see, Doug Scott gets the hand on the jersey, but J.C.'s a very, very strong person. Now watch him scramble around here. And as you say, he can't decide right now whether to run or to throw it, but watch the hits that he takes. He's going to look downfield for one last chance. Now he says, out of heck with it. Take that head-on shot a few times. You'll start throwing it.
Well, he did pick up about 7 yards on the play. 2nd and 3. And they go to Miller again. And again, Miller picks up the first down. Runs into Rayford Cooks, who is into the game, replacing Sandy Armstrong.
You know, yesterday at the press conference when Bob Obilovich was talking about how well William Miller has accepted his role as the backup running back with the Toronto Argonauts. He'll accept that role and he'll do everything the coach wanted, but when he gets the opportunity to play, he's going to try to show you that he deserves to stay there. And I don't blame him a bit.
He certainly impressed me this afternoon. I think he might warrant a starting assignment against Hamilton. 1st and 10, Toronto. And too much time. The flag goes down at the 20-yard line.
Well, that's the kind of thing you don't need now. You've got momentum going. You're starting to drive, and you want to keep going, and you come up and get a time count validation or offsides. You want to do everything you can to keep that offense going.
Okay. No. Next play. Time count violation, Toronto number 6. Down repeated.
You don't expect that from your experienced quarterbacks. So it's 1st and 15, Argos. Again, good pass protection for J.C. Watts. It's complete. This is Smith. Tries to turn it inside. Gets down to the 5-yard line. Good play by Smith once he had caught the ball.
It wasn't anything complicated. It was down and outside, throwing the ball and letting run, but he was wide open. The big thing about it is, you know, he's a rookie too. He's from a little college down in Ohio, Central State. There's not many of us that know where that is, but it's somewhere down around Dayton, let's say that way. Just down, break to the outside, but watch when he catches the football. He catches it, still has time to turn around, look at Steve Benjamin, and then beat him to the inside and get down to the 5-yard line.
Is it a commercial or not? Let's go if it's commercial. I can't tell you either. Vince has to tell me.
We'll be back with more action from the Olympic Stadium in Montreal right after this.
You gotta tell me if it is.
Welcome back to Montreal, where with the 1st and goal situation, the Argos elected to run it inside with William Miller. Picks up a couple of yards, so it'll be 2nd and goal now.
This is a place that you can build confidence in an offense. When you got that ball down inside the 5-yard line, it's just time to tough it up, go get him, and put it in the end zone. And William Miller's got it down to the 2. They got 2 shots at it. And this is, we'll find out what type of offense that line is right now.
Baker is out. Bronk is in. 2nd and goal, Argos. They give to Miller. And again, Miller comes up short.
We're going to put that ball on the 1-yard line. He may be laying in the end zone, but it's coming back to the 1 where it has to under the CFL rules. But Mark Hopkins come in from underneath, took the legs out from under him. 3rd down and 1. Big play. Both teams make their substitutions. Keith Baker takes in the play. Sandy Armstrong goes in to reinforce that defensive line, and they take out a linebacker. So they got 5 defensive linemen going to take the inside gaps.
3rd and goal to go, Argos. They lead 13-10. 2nd quarter action. They give to Miller. Touchdown.
Just a big hole for William Miller to go through that time. There wasn't any struggle there. He got to the line of scrimmage, and the hole was wide open for him to go in the end zone.
Just a straight lead. There it is. Now, William Miller just go as hard as you can go. If that offensive line will cut that defensive line and give a guy like Miller a little bit of a hole, he can jump through it as he did there, and you're not going to stop him when he gets that momentum going forward.
Lance Chomick will attempt the point after. And as usual, the convert is good for Chomick and the Argos, and they lead 20-10 here in Montreal. Welcome back to Montreal and the Olympic Stadium, where the Argos are leading the Alouettes by a score of 20-10. And Montreal will no doubt concede the single point, which they do.
Today's Carling O'Keefe Game Stars will receive a Royal Canadian
Magic of television, Don Whitman's voice, coming live and direct from his living room in Winnipeg. After shoveling out the driveway, Brian Ransom buying some time with a little bit of a scramble, completes to Jacques Chapdelaine at the 46-yard line.
Well, I think the impressive thing about the Toronto Argonauts, they were able to establish a drive and then come up with a touchdown. Even though they got a penalty or two on there, they got over that adversity and went on down and scored. Now for the Montreal Alouettes, they've got to do the same thing. Establish their offense once again. Don't get out of their game plan. Plenty of time in the game.
Well, we're not sure how much time is remaining in the second quarter. As we mentioned earlier, the scoreboard clock here at the Olympic Stadium has not been working since early in the first quarter, so we're only guessing. Ransom with some time, too much time. He's finally sacked at the 40-yard line.
That's a quarterback sack. He had time to throw the football. The offensive line gave him the time. The good job was done by the secondary of the Toronto Argonauts. Nobody open. By the time he looked around 3 or 4 places, he ran out of time, and down he went.
Well, that's the inexperience there. You want to try to make sure at least you get rid of that ball. If you're going to be second down, you might as well be second down and 10 rather than second down and 15. So get rid of that ball, throw it out of bounds.
And that's exactly what it is. Second down and 15 for the Alouettes from the 40-yard line. They trail 21-10. Ransom over the middle. And I think he was looking for Stiegel, but he overthrew him by about 5 yards. Good pressure from Harding and Don Moen.
I don't know what happened to Brian Ransom, but he's down on the field. He started to limp off the field, as you saw on your screen, but he sat down, and couldn't tell whether somebody stepped on him or what, but he was standing up when he threw the football.
Probably couldn't believe that he had thrown that one so badly.
It wasn't a great throw. It was over the top of everybody.
But he's done a good job for the Alouettes since joining them.
Well, he's in that rookie season, and that's the big thing. And he's not the sprint-out style of quarterback that most young guys are coming into the league. He's 6'3", as Chuck said earlier, and he's a pocket passer, play action, get back, throw it. So it's going to... He will get better every year, and that's the way you're going to have to measure Brian Ransom, not by this season. It's how much he improves next year as compared to where he was at the beginning of this year.
Chuck, can you remember how difficult it was for you in your rookie season in the CFL?
Yeah, it was difficult. I mean, the people were at you all the time, and a lot of things happening on the field, a lot of reads and things. Fortunately for me, I had a great coach at that time that took a lot of the heat off of me and didn't allow me to read that much.
Ronnie's rookie season was so long ago, he's probably forgotten. I don't want to ask him about that.
Ball is still around.
Gets it up to the 45-yard line. Yeah, but it was leather then, wasn't it?
I don't know what it was.
With real laces in it. Edwards returning it to the 45-yard line where the Argos will scrimmage 1st and 10. J.C. Watts still in a quarterback. Toronto lead 21-10. Second quarter. They give to Miller. And Miller gets up across the 50-yard line, met by Finley and Scott.
Well, you know, if J.C. Watts keeps moving the offense like this, I don't know whether we'll get a chance to see Conrad Holloway or not, because they're trying to establish themselves on the field as far as with their offense, and he's building up more and more confidence as he's going along in the game.
Pick up a 5. 2nd and 5 for the Argos. Swing pass. And that's the second time that Hudson has had problems hanging onto the ball with that type of pattern.
Steve Rocky just got his, I don't know whether he touched the ball or he got his hand in front of him, but he did something, and then, as a result, Hudson couldn't hang on to the football.
It's amazing how little it takes to distract you from hanging onto the ball.
It doesn't take much, you know. You just wave the hand in front of somebody's eyes and then have them try to relocate the ball. That's all it takes.
3rd and 5, so Hank Alisig is into the game. He'll get this punt away from his own 40-yard line. The Alouettes have one lone punt returner. A booming punt from Hank Alisig taken at the goal line. This is Martin. Martin gets an opening. A flag goes down. Martin at midfield. Martin all alone now, but This play could be nullified. Martin into the touchdown, but we'll have to wait and see what the flag is all about.
Boy, that was unfortunate because he made a great move. He came out of the end zone, started like he was going to go inside and swung outside. The minute flag is up, but there's a flag back on about the 20-yard line, and this play is going to be called back, and that's unfortunate because it was well executed.
Bob Bryan running all the way back to where the flag went down. Martin getting congratulations on the bench, but I fear those congratulations will be short-lived. But he did a good job in finding the hole.
Well, the Montreal Alouette specialty team set up the wall quite nicely. It's just you have to wait and see what the penalty call was.
Legal block. Montreal number 77 on the return. Half the distance to the goal line. First down.
Mark Hopkins, guilty of the illegal block.
Well, we're going to get a look at it here right at the bottom. I don't know. I think he's being blocked from the inside. I don't really think Hopkins is doing anything. The guy on the inside blocked him. That was a well-executed punt return by Montreal. When he turned the corner, he had wide open field.
I wonder if Martin will have words with Hopkins.
I'd have words with somebody, but it wouldn't be Hopkins. Steve Dell calls that the injured ball player, the backup defensive lineman for the Argonauts, who gets a lot of work on the special teams. He's the guy that's being limping off the field right now, and that could be a little costly if they have to punt anymore because he's the long snapper for the Argos. He's in quite a bit of pain.
Another of the many products that Simon Fraser University has sent to the CFL. They just keep churning them out year after year. And the SFU Klansmen have a good season for themselves going this year in that Northwest Conference.
Talk about good season. Talking to Don Moan in the airport yesterday leaving, asking if he had the opportunity to check out his UBC Thunderbirds Friday night. He was pretty excited about them. That's an awesome football team.
They were very impressive in a big 49-3 win over the Calgary Dinosaurs. We've been talking about university football. Don't forget the big junior final slated for Taylor Field in Regina. The Regina Rams against the Ottawa Sooners. First and 10 for the Alouettes. They give it to Tony Johns. Johns up the middle. Picks up about 8.5 yards on the play.
Well, the Alouettes want to get this ball out of here. We have less than a minute, and we don't have an exact time on the clock, but we know it's less than a minute because the flag is up, and they've got to use up some time and get out of there, not give the ball back to Toronto Argonauts so they can add more points.
We can tell you we are in the final seconds of the second quarter. But that's about all. 2nd and 2. And they gave to Faulkner deep in the backfield. I'm not so sure that he got the first down. They rule that he did. He was far enough for the first down. Less than 30 seconds to play. Second quarter. The Argos lead 21-10. They spot the ball at the 18-yard line. 1st and 10, Montreal. Ransom looking for Hood. Fires it well over his head. Incomplete.
Well, you want to try to keep the drive going and do some pass completions. Right now, Ransom is just overthrowing his target there and just missed a receiver.
Missed him by a country mile. 2nd and 10, Montreal. Come into this game with a record of 4 wins and 13 defeats. Ransom. Tony Johns had that, and I think he was looking at the 2 Argonauts who were coming towards him and decided to drop the ball. And there goes the gun to end the second quarter and send the teams to the dressing room here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. And the Argos will go into the dressing room with a 21-10 lead over the Alouettes. Right now, let's go to CFL Control and Brian Williams.
All right, thank you, Steve Armitage. Good afternoon again, everyone. Coming up at halftime, J. Paul McConnell standing by out in Vancouver with a report on last night's win by the BC Lions over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We'll return to Montreal. Ron Lancaster and Chuck Ely will discuss the upcoming playoffs in both the East and Western Conferences. And Dr. Frank Cosentino, the head football coach at York University in Toronto, will join me, and we'll talk about the playoff scene in university football. Stay with us. Our halftime show is up next as the CFL on CBC continues. Toronto Argonauts lead the Montreal Alouettes by a score of 21-10. Right now, let's return you live to Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Once again, here are Steve Armitage, Chuck Ely, and Ron Lancaster.
Thank you very much, Brian. 21-10, the score in favor of the Argonauts here at halftime. The playoffs are just around the corner in the CFL. As a matter of fact, they start next weekend. We're going to be very busy in the West, so let's talk about the West. Let's talk about Winnipeg, BC. Ronnie Lancaster, you're going to be doing that game with Don Whitman. Who do you like?
It's very difficult to beat a team 3 times in a row, and the BC Lions got Winnipeg coming in under that dome. I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be a good football game. The big question I have is either team going to have enough bodies to play. It's a very, very physical series. I think right now, from what I've seen in the last couple weeks, the BC Lions may be the best team in the country. I said that earlier in the year that I thought they were. I'm going to stay with it.
Chuck Ely, you agree with that?
Well, I think Edmonton has come on very, very strongly. It's a pick 'em out West. I think all those teams have capabilities of winning on any given day, and it's going to boil down to mistakes. Now, I'm not dodging the big issue here.
You are dodging the issue. Come on.
Okay, I'm going to look at the fact that Edmonton is going to be the one. They've got the home field advantage right on the way through it, and I think that could be a key with the 2 quarterbacks and Allen and Matt Dunnigan.
Okay, so you're picking Edmonton to beat Calgary. How about Winnipeg, BC? Come on.
Well, Winnipeg, BC, I have to pick Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg, as Ronnie pointed out, is very difficult to play a team 3 times in a row and win. And I think it's going to be very difficult for BC to come up and be up as high as they've been up for the last 2 weeks and come up against Winnipeg.
Ronnie, very quickly, Edmonton, Calgary.
Well, I like the Eskimos. I think when you come into Edmonton to play football, you better get those chin straps good and hard because that defense is going to be after you. I know Calgary Stampeders have had an outstanding season, but I just think the Eskimos are a little bit stronger.
Okay, Brian, that's the way Ronnie and Chuck see the playoffs in the West, which we will have for you on CBC television. Brian, back to you.
All right, thank you, Steve Armitage. We come back to CFL Control in Toronto. Well, as I promised, we're going to have a report on that game last night, played before a near-capacity crowd under the dome at BC Place in Vancouver. The British Columbia Lions wrapped up 2nd place. The Lions, written off a couple of weeks ago, have now come back with big back-to-back wins over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And with a full report on last night's game from Vancouver, here is J. Paul McConnell.
They put almost 55,000 into BC Place last night and then gave them their money's worth. Bombers all the way to the goal line on their opening drive, only to be stopped twice at the 1. But they were right back on the next series for Perry Tuttle's one-man show, where he hauled in the John Hufnagel pass and then ran the ball through almost the entire BC defense for as pretty a touchdown as you'd want to see. BC replied with field goals until Roy DeWalt found Merv Fernandez in the 2nd quarter. He hit last year's Shenley Award winner with only his 4th major of the year. 1 step from the end zone sideline, or so the official said. It made it 16-13 Bombers at halftime. They were tied here at 16 in the 3rd when Keith Gooch teamed up with rookie Paul Nastasiuk to block a Bob Cameron punt and turned that into a touchdown.
Oh, it was there. We watched film on it, and they said it was there. Like they told us, all you have to do is believe, and you can get it. I believed, Greg believed, James believed, and we got it.
There, the Lions took the lead for keeps and added to it in the 4th quarter with a textbook DeWalt to Fernandez strike. 68 yards for the major score.
It's money time now, you know, it's the playoffs, and we want them. We want them here, you know. I looked at the news today and saw 6-foot drifts in Winnipeg, and that was a little bit of incentive to bring it back home.
NFL veteran Jim Zorn came on in the 4th to cut the Lions' margin to 12. He sent Lester Brown in with 2.5 minutes left and counted on the 2-point conversion. But by then it was long over. 9 Winnipeg turnovers in the night spoiled their trip to the coast. The loss will bring them back again for the first of the playoff games Saturday, where they'll play 1 more. 2 teams battered by 2 tough games, now to play a 3rd, which for one of the 2 will be their last of the year.
The team that comes out of here will be a miracle worker. It's been a hard series, but we'll be back again next week, and so will they. Same place, same station.
Yeah, but the bad news is it's Winnipeg again, and, you know, those 2 teams are getting tired of seeing each other.
All right, it'll be Winnipeg at British Columbia. That is at 4 o'clock Eastern next Saturday, and the game on Sunday. They're both on CBC. The Calgary Stampeders at the Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton. That begins at 4:30 Eastern. The Eastern Playoff Series is a two-game total point affair between Toronto and Hamilton. Only two Eastern teams qualifying for the playoffs. That because of the superiority this year of the Western Conference, where they are still playing some good, exciting football. Stay with us. We'll talk university football with Dr. Frank Cosentino as the CFL on CBC continues. Time, and the Toronto Argonauts lead Montreal. University football this weekend, the UBC Thunderbirds over the Calgary Dinosaurs for the Hardy Rugby Trophy. Yesterday, number 2 ranked Western Ontario Mustangs all over the University of Guelph Griffins for the Yates Cup. The upset of the day, the Bishop's Gators defeated number 4 ranked Carleton Ravens, and out east it was the Acadia Axemen defeating the X-Men from St. Francis Xavier for the Jewett Trophy. So next week in the Central Bowl, the UBC Thunderbirds will tangle with the Bishop's Gators, and the Western Ontario Mustangs in the Atlantic Bowl will take on the Acadia Axemen. Dr. Frank Cosentino, the head football coach at York University in Toronto, former quarterback with, Hamilton, Toronto, Edmonton in the CFL. You're here. Let's talk about the first game, UBC and Bishops.
Well, I have to think that UBC is going to be the favorites going into that game. They've got an exceptionally well-balanced football team. It used to be said that they had only a strong defensive team, but scoring 49 points against Calgary, I think, is quite an achievement. Bishops is riding high. Bruce Coulter, I think, is in his 25th year of coaching and has got them all excited about the game. And nonetheless, I think you have to go with UBC.
Of course, UBC beating Calgary, and the Dinosaurs are defending national champions. They were all over Calgary Friday night.
Well, they were, and again, that's a tough conference, the Western Conference, and UBC has come out of that undefeated, and that says a lot for them.
How about the University of Western Ontario Mustangs against the Acadia Axemen? We're all talking about how tough Western is, but I tell you, this Acadia team year after year comes up with some pretty good football players.
They do. It's kind of a rematch. They've had about 3 or 4 meetings in the past 6 years, and the thing that makes me a little bit leery, I think Western should be the favorite, but the thing that makes me leery, it's got to be worth 10 points to Acadia playing in Halifax. That Maritime Conference, that Stanfield Cup, that whole Eastern Bowl down there. Anytime a team comes from Central Canada, boy, they're trying to lick the Upper Canadians.
Listen, I've been a big booster of university football in this country for many years. I'm always complaining people aren't out, they're not supporting it. We talked to you earlier in the season. Has it been a good year for Canadian university football, not just on the field, but in the stands?
It has been. I think it's been probably one of the best years we've had. I know when York and University of Toronto played, we had something like 12,000 people in the stands. Carleton and Ottawa had 20,000. Calgary and Edmonton for a game out there, they had 6,000. Fans seem to be rediscovering university football, and the future looks terrific.
Let me tell you, folks, support it next week. It's UBC and Bishops and Western and Acadia. You're picking UBC and Western. Who do you pick to win the Vanier Cup, win it all?
Well, I have to go with UBC, I think.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Frank Cosentino. We've discussed university football. Right now, let's throw it back to the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Fellas?
Thank you, Brian. It's halftime here in Montreal. The score is 21-10 in favor of the Argos. Again, the situation is very simple in terms of Toronto. They need a win or a tie to take first place in the CFL East. And right now, Bob Obilovich and the Argos are in the right place.
Well, they're definitely in the right place. They wanted to come into this game and win and get that second game playoff position at home, and they're in a position to do that.
But again, their offense really hasn't done the job for them. It was their defense that's put points on the board.
Well, their offense has moved somewhat, and as you said, it was their defense that's been able to put points on the board. Faulkner came in early in the game and made a fumble, and they were able to get a touchdown. As Faulkner comes out of here, you tell young running backs that we work with, tuck that ball away and hold it. And as you can see, Faulkner takes it out here, and he's holding it in one hand, and then his knee comes up and kicks the ball out of his hand, and then you have Gary Parker right there on the spot, was able to pick it up and run it down the field 55 yards for the touchdown. And that was a defensive play. And now he's holding the ball out there. He's got to be careful, too, because you got a man coming up from behind you who can knock that ball out of your arm.
On more than one occasion, I have seen the ball knocked out of the man's arms, and he's in big trouble. Ronnie?
Well, Montreal came right back. Brian Ransom going to loft it high downfield, and we're going to get a good play by Gil Stagel, who jumps back inside of Cliff Hewitt, makes the catch, and now Hewitt trying to turn around to find him. Too late. Stego got good speed. 74-yard touchdown, and this gets Montreal right back in the football game. But again, the Argonauts come back and did put a nice drive together that ended with William Miller going in from 1 yard out. So they have the 20-10 lead. It hasn't been pretty. I don't think if I was Coach Obilovich, I'd be totally satisfied with my offense, but the big thing is right now we're winning.
I don't think the Argos can afford to coast.
No.
Definitely not. I think that they know that Montreal can score at any time, and the way their offense, if their offense shuts down and gets flat, then Montreal can put some points on the board. We saw it last week. Toronto was able to come back and score a lot of points in a couple minutes to win the game against themselves.
21-10, the score here at halftime. We'll be back with the second half kickoff in just a moment. Five changes that the Toronto Argonauts made coming into this game after last week's win over the Alouettes included that man, Willie Pless.
Well, Willie Pless was playing outstanding football when he first joined them in his rookie year. And they missed him out of that lineup on the defense. And now he's back in there. They feel a little more secure with their defense going into the playoffs.
Not very big, Ronnie, but he hits like a ton of bricks.
You know, it is hard to believe that he's, 5'10". But I'll tell you, he does move around on a football field. He's an aggressive style of player, which means that he can give away a little bit of size because he's so aggressive. And I think right now we're going to see Walter Lewis. It's Brian Ransom. We see number 6 got the jacket on. Walter Lewis has his off. I think we're going to see a quarterback change for Montreal.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time this season that head coach Gary Durchik has elected to put Walter Lewis into the game to replace Brian Ransom. And it would appear that Lewis will indeed start the second half of play for the Alouettes.
The interesting part, Steve, to see who starts for the Argonauts. That's I don't see whether it's going to be J.C. Watts or Conridge Holloway, because I still believe that if Conridge Holloway is going to be the leader the next 2 weeks, he needs to play the second half.
Ronnie, I think you're so right, because I think if anything, as your quarterback, you want to be able to get there and get some feel before you're thrown into that playoff situation. And if he's going to play next week, he needs to play some this second half.
The Eastern playoff structure, it's a 2-game total point series. And the team that finishes in first place will have the choice of where the second game will be played. And the general feeling amongst the coaches is that they will take the second game as their home game. And why not?
That's where you want it. But Coach Obilovich and I think Al Bruno both made the statements that they will take the second game at home, which is where you want it. It's just like having the wind in the fourth quarter. You know, you want the wind in the fourth quarter. You know what you have to do? You want it in your backyard.
We got your predictions for the Western semifinal. How about your predictions for the 2-game total point Eastern final, Ron? Quick.
Hamilton. I think they're a better football team.
Chuck?
Hamilton, because of their defense.
That's right.
Well, there you go, folks.
Now remember that when we're wrong.
That's what I'm saying. We have got that. Preserved forever. Zenon Andrusician has placed the ball on the tee and is getting set to get the second half underway here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. 21-10, Argos lead. All they need is a tie or a win, and first place in the East will be theirs. This is Edwards, and he tried to cut back. He was hit and dropped at the 35 by Wes Cooper.
Well, again, the big thing in a lot of situations in the game is to work on your specialty teams. They've added Dwight Edwards to their lineup, and you can look for probably during the playoffs for him to be returning punts and kickoffs for them.
Well, Bob Obilovich has answered one question for us. J.C. Watts will start.
That's just what I was going to say. I looked over there, and there came number 6, so I guess that question's answered.
J.C. Watts at quarterback. He went the entire first half for the Argos. Miller crosses the 41-yard line before he's brought down by number 70, Doug Scott.
The one thing, the Argonauts might not have been able to move the ball a lot through the air, but their running game's gone pretty well today. They're getting a good job up front by particularly the left side. Ferroni and Schultz on that left side of the offensive line, and the running of William Miller. They have been pretty productive that way.
A gain of about 7 yards on the play. 2nd and 3 from the 43. Miller again. Miller has the first down. Crosses the midfield stripe.
Well, the way William Miller is running today, I think it might be kind of hard to move him out of that lineup. they're getting the best running production that they've had in quite a few games with the Toronto Argonauts. William Miller just takes that ball up there on that little sprint draw action, and he makes a cutback on his read. There's a hole just a mile wide for anybody to run through. I can even run through that hole.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Miller again. And this time, Miller does not get to the original line of scrimmage. He runs into Brett Williams, and when you run into Brett Williams, you tend to stop almost immediately.
Especially when you're 5'9" like William Miller is. You're not going to knock Brett Williams down too many times.
Oh, it's a loss of a couple of yards. Make it 2nd and 12 for the Argos. The ball now in Toronto territory at the 53-yard line. Watts firing over the middle, complete. Miller. And when he's not running the ball, he's catching the ball.
Well, a couple of times, J.C. Watts has gotten called for too much time delay. This time he's sitting up there and he's reading, and he checks off into an audible and makes the call because he sees the blitz is coming, and he gets rid to William Miller over the middle. That's what you got to do. Once those linebackers leave that area, there's no underneath help, and if you can get that ball into that receiver's stomach, then you've got enough time to complete the pass and pick up needed yardage.
And it was first down by the length of the football. So the Argos get a little momentum going on offense, which they badly need heading into the Eastern Final. Miller. And Miller picks his way just shy of the 40-yard line.
Doug Scott really upset, talking to the official down there, felt that he was being held, but you know, that's a normal complaint of defensive linemen. Every time they get blocked, they think they were held, and it doesn't do any good to holler.
Spot the ball at the 41-yard line. 2nd and 7.
Get a good look at it. Looked like he was tackled.
J.C. Watts under pressure. He's sacked. Back at the 53-yard line. Mark Hopkins getting through for the Alouettes.
Well, they put the blitz on J.C. Watts that time, and Mark Hopkins got the rush inside, number 77. He comes from the left side of your screen, finds an opening, and he comes right through. You get up in the quarterback's face like that, he has nowhere to go. He had no escape from that particular hit from Hopkins.
Well, when they take and send those linebackers on the blitz, and those backs out of the backfield have left their places and gone out for the pass patterns, the quarterback has to read what we call hot. There's nobody to pick up those linebackers blitzing because each lineman has a defensive lineman that he's responsible for, and he picks up. And that time Hopkins came back, there was nobody to block him. JC should have got rid of the ball hot.
Steve Rocky, the injured Montreal Alouette, being tended to by the Alouettes training staff.
Steve Rocky's had an unfortunate career, I guess you'd say. You know, he was so dominating a few years ago as a pass rusher, and he suffered that severe knee injury, and he's just never come back from it. And again, he's limping on that left leg, and you know, that's just not a good sign. There's been an awful lot of good football players have their careers ended by those knee injuries, and you certainly hope it doesn't happen to him.
Our eagle-eyed spotter, Art Darch, assures me that Walter Lewis will be going in a quarterback for the Alouettes when they get possession of the ball following this Hank Alesic punt. What a great punt from Alesic. Right through the end zone. No chance for the Alouettes to return that. Just a booming punt from Hank Alesic. So the Argos up their point total by another one, making 22-10 here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. From the first half of play here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal, there you see Toronto with 12 first downs compared to 7 for Montreal. Toronto outrushed Montreal 79-32, but Montreal certainly had the edge in passing, 154 to 92 yards. Each team 2 turnovers. But where it counts the most, and it's an old cliche, the Argos lead on the scoreboard, 22-10. Third quarter action. Lewis in a quarterback now for the Alouettes. Gives to Faulkner, and Faulkner picks up about a half a yard, if that.
Well, Marlon Jones and Rodney Harding just converged on that and just made the hit on the line of scrimmage. I know that you got a new quarterback in a football game. You want to get him started on the right foot, but right now he's looking at a 2nd and 11, and that's where you don't want him because he's going to get the pressure coming at him, and he needs to make a first down.
You know, this is an area we often overlook in football. The guys that handle the equipment, they do a tremendous job, and they have to do it very quickly. More often than not, you don't have a lot of time to fix those shoulder pads. Lewis sprinting up. He's going to run. He likes to run. And he's dropped at the 44-yard line by Darrell Wilson and Willie Pless.
Well, that's why they've got Walter Lewis in there. He has that ability to get outside and do a little more scrambling than Brian Ransom. And that time, he was not quite able to get the first down, but he put forth a good effort.
Lewis comes into the game having rushed the ball 42 times for 247 yards and 1 touchdown.
They're about 3rd down and just about 2 yards. This isn't a bad move to go ahead and kick the football. You're already down 22-10. Don't make it worse. You still have a chance to win this, but if they would turn it over here and the Argonauts put it in, then it's probably out of reach. I think this is a good move. Kick it.
I disagree. I think you go for it.
That's okay.
You're 4 and 13. Why not? You're not going into the playoffs. Gamble. Have some fun.
I agree. What's the difference?
Good punt there from Andrew Zishin. Edwards at the 25. Gets to the 26 where he runs into Steve Benjamin. So J.C. Watson company, if indeed J.C. is still in the game at quarterback, will scrimmage 1st and 10 for the Argos.
J.C.'s going to be there a long time. Conridge has not even unbuttoned his coat, so he may not play at all today. J.C. may go the whole way.
Well, we talked to Tim Cowan before the game, and he didn't think he was going to get any playing time at all.
No, he's had that infection. What is it, Chuck? You talked to him.
Well, it's just a boil on his nose that is a problem with him, and he can't function with it.
And very painful, too. 1st and 10 Argos. They give to Miller. Miller right up the middle, crosses the 30-yard line.
We said that the Montreal defensive line would be where they could win or lose the football game today. And right now, the Argonaut offensive line is winning the battle up front, and that's why the Toronto Argonauts have been able to run the football as well. I don't think Montreal's defensive line is playing the way Coach Durchik would have hoped they'd play today.
A gain of 5. Make it 2nd and 5. Spot the ball at 32-yard line. J.C. firing over the middle, complete to Chris Woods. And Woods is stopped at the 45.
Well, I think one of the important things to point out when Coach Durchik was talking about it, he was talking about putting rush on the quarterback. I don't think they anticipated the running that William Miller's been doing, and it's created a problem for their defensive line. And now J.C. Watts is able to get a little more time to throw the ball, and he's reading and taking advantages of what they give him over the middle by hitting Chris Woods right there.
Good enough for the first down. 1st and 10 Argos from their own 45. A little movement on the part of the toaster at the line of scrimmage.
Brett Williams is arguing right now that center moved the football. Now we're going to see what they call. And that's exactly what they're calling, illegal procedure. So he made a good move.
Do you know a center in football that doesn't do that from time to time?
Well, if the man takes advantage of it like Brett Williams did when that ball moved, he moved it. It's a good move.
Well, that's exactly what it was. The center moving the ball before the snap of the ball. So it's 1st and 15 Argos. And that time, no trying for J.C. Watts to set up, and he gets away. He is so elusive. And J.C. Watts turns what should have been a loss into a game.
When you get a blitz, which they had, and the pressure was on him, and Mark Hopkins had him dead to rights, you have to put the quarterback on the ground, and if you don't, J.C. Watts' ability will come out. There comes the blitz. There goes Coakley. There comes Hopkins. He's got him. Now get him down on the ground, and he didn't, and there's where J.C. Watts is at his best. When he gets outside, he's a good athlete.
How many times have you heard defensive coaches say you cannot arm tackle? You've got to get the body into the tackle. Put some weight on the quarterback. J.C. Watts going long. And Smith was interfered with as he was going for the ball. The referee was there to call it very quickly, and they spot it at the 30-yard line. Rick Ryan all over Smith.
Well, that time Rick Ryan, as a defensive back, you know that you have to play the ball. He had his back turned, and he played the receiver as the ball was coming and making the contact, and that's why he got called for the pass interference.
Montreal, number 27, first down.
I don't think there was any doubt about that.
No, I don't think anybody would argue with that call. The ball hits him right in the back of the head.
He realized he was beaten, so he was just doing his best to make sure that Smith didn't come up with the ball. 1st and 10, Toronto from the Montreal 30-yard line. JC buying some time with that little scramble. This could be a TD. It is. Pearson all alone on the left sidelines, and he just walked into the end zone.
That time, J.C. Watts ran what we call a dash pattern, where he just drops back like he's going to drop in the back in the pocket, and then he decides to roll to his left. And when he rolled out to his left, that bought him some time to hit Pearson in the flat, who was wide open.
Yeah, that's designed. I mean, that's not a fluke. He drops straight back and then roll to your left, get yourself outside where you can do what you want to do. Paul Pearson, as we said, they have to have healthy going into next week, and that's what Obilovich has been happy with. He makes the catch for the touchdown, and that's something that he hasn't done that often this year.
Lance Chomik attempting the point after. And as usual, it is good. So the Toronto Argonauts move ever closer to first place in the CFL's Eastern Division. They now lead 29-10. The score here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. The Toronto Argonauts on top of the Alouettes as time is running out in regular season play in the CFL. Certainly here in Montreal for the Alouettes. A win or a tie for the Argos, and they can claim top spot in the CFL's Eastern Division. Chomik kicking off. Following the touchdown, Treflin at the 10. Looking for running room on the outside. Crosses the 35-yard line, but a flag goes down. Marlon Jones over there to make the stop for the Argos.
Well, every time Montreal's had a good return, they've had some penalty called. This time it's going to be an illegal block on the kickoff return, which is going to cost them 10 yards. And that's not a good sign, because that means things aren't going your way.
Holding the call. 7 minutes and 28 seconds remaining to play in the third quarter here at Montreal.
It's okay, we'll get it. Holding. Montreal, number 71 on the run back. First down.
Well, going back to that, J.C. Watts goes out to his left and buys himself a little more time and allows Paul Pearson to run his pattern a little deeper upfield, and for some reason the coverage was missed.
Back to the live action, 1st and 10 Montreal. Walter Lewis at quarterback, under pressure. Lewis just puts it up. He knew that he was going to get dumped, and he just simply threw it out of bounds. Dan Moen with good pressure for the Argos.
Well, the Argonauts are beginning to feel the kill instinct right here. They know that they've got them in a deep situation where they've got to pass. They're sending linebackers for people to blitz.
And they did very effectively on that last play.
Well, Don Moen stayed at home also. That's the key right here. When you have a bootleg play, you want to get them moving one way and then the quarterback come back out around it the other way. But Don Moen does what he's supposed to do. He stays home. You cannot get outside of him. He makes the tackle. That's the big play he does. And don't let him outside of you.
Penalty was against the Argos. It's 2nd and 10 Montreal. And they'll start from the 20. Lewis going line over the middle. That'll be picked off. It is. Daryl Moyer intercepting for the Argos and returning it down inside the 35-yard line.
Well, those defensive secondary people know that long situation, they're going to hang back there in zone. And as Walter Lewis dropped back to Reed, there was a 3-deep zone, and he was trying to hit the seam and overthrew a man, and Moyer was right back there to pick it off. As he's reading up the field, he's trying to throw it over the middle, and he overshoots his receiver, and Moyer's just back there playing safety, just reading, and is able to pick it off. They know that they've got to pass now to try to get back in the game.
1st and 10, Toronto, from the Montreal 34-yard line. J.C. Watts over the middle, complete to Smith. Smith down at the 5. Rick Ryan pulling him down and preventing a sure touchdown.
Well, J.C. Watts has things going his way right now. That's a good throw. Get his own defense, and he'll drop it over top the linebackers and right down in the hole. Look, there's the linebackers into Smith's hand. Rick Ryan has to come make the tackle, but they're down to the 6-yard line, and they can smell first place now.
First and goal to go, Toronto. They lead 29-10. Third quarter here in Montreal. J.C. Watts with the time, and it's a touchdown, Chris Woods. So now the Argos are pouring it on.
Well, I tell you what, J.C. Watts is having a field day right now. He has got his rhythm going and hitting his receivers right on target. And everybody seems to be getting open down the field. And the running game has helped set up a lot of this.
Well, when you talk about a quarterback, watch, he gets back, gets those feet set, step, throw, on the line, open receiver. That's going to be the result. As you said, he got his rhythm going.
Well, sometimes as a quarterback, if you let the ball go, you're always going to get the contact, so you always got to be prepared. As J.C. Watts got a hit right there after he threw the touchdown, but he'll take the touchdown anytime.
And the point after from Lance Chomik is good. So the Argos are running away with this game now here in Montreal as they run ever closer to first place in the CFL's Eastern Division. And with it, the home field advantage in the 2-game total point Eastern final, which it looks now as if it will begin in Hamilton next weekend, winding up in Toronto the following weekend. And I'm sure that there are many members of the Hamilton Ticats who are watching this game with mixed emotions this afternoon. I know the Hamilton coaching staff are here in full force. Ronnie, you had a chance to talk with Al Bruno before the game.
Well, they feel that it's very important for them to be here at the ball game. You know, the coaches get the game films, and they'll have the film of this game to study all week. But the big thing is to get here, see what's going on, just if they're doing anything a little bit different or things you can anticipate seeing on the film. You can see a game on television, but you don't get the same picture that coaches want to see in order to prepare for a team. That's why they're here.
Lance Chomik getting set to kick off following the Argo touchdown. Treflin just watches it sail over his head into the end zone. This Alouette team is a beaten ball club right now. They give up another single point.
This is the thing that you're always afraid of when you come into a game at the end of the season. You know, it's the other night in Hamilton, for instance, Ottawa came in on a beautiful night to play football. They came out, they got things going their way, and it was a heck of a game. But right now, Montreal, they've got like 25 minutes or so left in their season. They look up the scoreboard and they see a 37-10 score. They know that this season's over, and it's very disappointing, and it's hard to play in a game like this.
Well, let's see what Walter Lewis and the Alouette offense can do. They are 1st and 10 from their own 35-yard line. Lewis may have been a quarterback draw. Finds some running room. Comes up just shy of the 45-yard line.
Well, that was definitely a design play. Walter Lewis just drops back 2-3 steps, hoping that those linebackers drop out of their read in the backs who are coming out like a pass, and then tries to take it up the middle. That time he was able to gain 9 yards out of it and set them up for a good chance for a first down play.
Just another reminder that we will have the Western semifinals for you on CBC television starting next Saturday, Winnipeg at BC. And then Chuck and I will be at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton on the Sunday for the Eskimos game against Calgary. Lewis with the quarterback sneak. Should have the first down. All he had to do was cross the 45-yard line.
Well, for Walter Lewis, what he needs to do, all the amount of playing time that he can get, he has to continually work on his game. He's a rookie. He hasn't played that much. Brian Ransom has done most of the playing. But these guys have to look ahead to next year in their careers, you know, and he needs to learn. And the only way, we said earlier, the only way to learn is on the field.
1st and 10. Ball just the Argonaut side of the 45-yard line. Lewis, quick pass, intending that for Stiegel, but it's incomplete.
Well, you can look for that defensive secondary for the most part of the Toronto Argonauts just to lay back and play zone and just force that team to work up the field to score any points if they're going to score any time at all. Use up as much time on that clock, and they can come out of here with first place. And with a 37-10 score, that looks good right now for the Toronto Argonauts.
2nd and 10. This time it's complete to Gerald Alphen. Alphen down to the 51-yard line. Good enough for the first down.
Oh, you see Pless dropping out of there. Now Alphen curls around him. Pless thinks he's outside, so he has to come back inside and make the tackle.
Back to the live action. This time, Walter Lewis is going nowhere. He's dropped at the midfield stripe by Marlon Jones.
Well, that defensive front four, they know that they're going to be passing. So right now they do it. They pin their ears back and just go after them. They know that they're going to have to throw the ball a lot more, and they're going to take a little more chances. They're going to be stunning, running games between the defensive line and tackles, crossing each other, trying to get as much pressure on that quarterback without using their linebackers to blitz.
That's Rick Ryan sitting on the Montreal bench with some ice on his knee. Lewis tried to go forward, and then he wanted to go back. He was going nowhere. The Argos all over him.
Four-man rush. That's all they came at him with. They put the pressure on Walter Lewis. And as Chuck said, why blitz the linebackers? They got a big lead. Sit back. They know they're going to throw. Go get him. He's back in the pocket. Go get him. And that's exactly what they did.
That's a good situation for the defense to be in. In position. Low spiral punt. Raisley at the 25. And he gets up to about the 28-yard line, where Conridge Holloway and the Argos will scrimmage 1st and 10. They lead 37-10.
Catch all the excitement of the Western semifinals. You'll see both games live on CBC Saturday and Sunday, November 15th and 16th.
Well, we should remind Don Whitman to start digging himself out now, because he does have a date at BC Place Stadium with Ron Lancaster for that Western semifinal, Winnipeg against BC. Chuck Ely and I will be in Edmonton, where the Eskimos will take on the Calgary Stampeders. Well, I mentioned Conridge Holloway perhaps coming in a quarterback. I was trying to do a little coaching for Obi. I wanted to see Holloway into the ballgame. Not that J.C. Watts hasn't done a great game, but I thought it's about time that Conridge got in.
Well, there's two thoughts in this situation now, whether they're trying to rest Conridge or what. Conridge says he's 100%, he's ready to go. But now J.C. Watts is hot. They're going to continue that type of play throughout the game, I guess, to carry over into the playoffs.
So it's J.C. Watts still at the quarterback position. 1st and 10 Argos. They give to Miller. Miller trying to fight his way up to the 30-yard line.
Right now, 37-10. Trying to Argonauts have everything going their way. They're going to be content to run on 1st down, throw on 2nd, make that 1st down, keep the ball. They don't need anything big to happen. All they want to do now is just build momentum.
I would think that if you're Bob Obilovich, perhaps the thing you don't want to happen now would be senseless, needless injuries.
That's the big thing, but you can't afford to loaf. Anytime you loaf on a football field, you can get hurt. Don't loaf. Just play good, hard, solid football now. 2nd and 8.
J.C. Watts out of the shotgun, completes to Smith. Smith has the 1st down at the 42-yard line. There goes Fairbanks. And that's not a good sign when he doesn't walk to the dressing room. He's got to take the golf cart. You know he's in a certain amount of difficulty.
The thing about J.C. Watts right now, he's playing with total confidence now, like he knows where his receivers are going to be. He's playing with some consistency, and I think the rap on J.C. Watts is that he hasn't been able to be consistent throughout the years he's played in the CFL, and if he can keep that up, he'll be an added addition to the Toronto Argonaut offense.
They roll. The Smith was down at the 41-yard line. 1st and 10, Toronto. J.C. airs it out. He's going long, looking for Willie Miller, but he overthrows him.
Well, that's a good defensive play. Steve Benjamin saw William Miller come on. He did what he should. Stay back. That's the formation they use to throw that quick hitch. So he fakes the quick pass out to the flanker. Now William Miller turns deep. He just tries to throw it to him.
J.C. can still throw that ball a long way when he wants to, can't he? So it's 2nd and 10 for Toronto. From the 41. Again, J.C. Watts in the shotgun. And again, he completes it for the 1st down.
one thing about it, when you have the defense coming at you, you know they're going to be in blitz, and when you know they're blitzing, they're playing man coverage. And J.C. Watts, if he gets enough time, he's just running the out patterns, picking up enough yards for the first down.
Shirozka into the ball game for the Toronto Argonauts. And that's something that maybe Obilovich will start to do, is look at some of the other ball players on the bench.
Well, he's got Jeff Watson in the football game now, too. You know, he was the #1 draft choice of Hamilton last year.
Toronto,
it's an opportunity.
Procedure number 64, down repeated.
Stay on side. Chris Schultz moved a little bit early, so they bring it back. Get those guys the opportunity to play, because one injury and they'll be in the ball game. It's a good chance to look at it.
2nd and 15 for the Argos from their own 36. We're in the final seconds of the 3rd quarter. The flag is up. This time J.C. Watts decides to go it himself. And he can still scamper with the ball. Brought down at the 45-yard line of Montreal by Rayford Cooks.
Well, JC is doing it all right now. He's passing, he's running the ball well, and he's making the reads well as far as the quarterback. He just drops back to the pocket, and all of a sudden there's nobody there in the middle. The blitz and the linebackers are all gone up the middle, and he just takes what they give him and enough to pick up the first down and keep the drive going.
And the ruling was brought down at the 46-yard line. 1st and 10, Toronto. They lead 37-10. We're in the final seconds, 3rd quarter. Over the middle, complete. And Shirozka is brought down at the inside the 20-yard line.
Well, Chuck's hit it right on the head a minute ago. J.C. Watts is playing with great confidence right now. He has just got everything going his way. Watch how well. They got a blitz on him again. He just looks, makes the read, step, throws it right on target to Paul Pearson, and they're threatening again.
And we have an injured Montreal Alouette down on the field. Mark Hopkins shaken up on that last play.
Well,
looking at his left knee.
You don't know how serious that injury is, but talking to Coach Durchuk, he's had a heck of a time with his linebackers being injured this year. Lost Willie Mitchell, and he lost Lamont Jeffers, some linebackers that were playing very well for him all year long, and that's been part of their problem at times as well. They've had some key injuries to people who have been playing very well for them.
Yeah,
speaking of injuries, are the BC Lions and Winnipeg Blue Bombers going to have enough players left to go into Game 3, Round 3?
Well, I'll tell you what, those are two excellent football teams, and I've enjoyed watching both their games, and I know I'm looking forward, and I know I'm going to enjoy next week's game. The Western Conference, those two semifinals are going to be as good a football games as you're going to see anywhere.
And you'll see them both on CBC television, as we pointed out several times this afternoon, starting with Saturday.
Well, Hopkins is walking off the field. That's a good sign.
It's 1st and 10 for Toronto. The ball just inside the 20-yard line of the Montreal Alouettes. Could be the final play of the 3rd quarter. Out of the shotgun. Watts with lots of time into the end zone, and it's knocked away by Steve Benjamin. And he takes away what could have been a sure touchdown for Pearson, because he was open at the moment that ball was thrown. And there goes the gun to end the 3rd quarter play here in Montreal. It's the Argos 37, the Alouettes 10. Olympic Stadium in Montreal as we get set to begin the 4th quarter. A 4th quarter that the Argos can more or less just coast through, because they are going to finish in 1st place in the CFL East. How about that for going out on a limb?
Well, I think they've been impressive with their offense a little more in the 2nd half, and that's a good indication that they'll probably be in 1st place.
The big thing the Argonauts would like to do is play straight time now. They would want that clock just running for 15 minutes. Get it over. Let's go home. Let's get ready for Hamilton, because this game is over.
We mentioned the fact that Al Bruno and his coaching staff from the Hamilton Ticats are here in attendance in Montreal. I would think they'd have to be impressed with this Argonaut offense in the 2nd half.
I
think they're seeing something a little different. They're getting some running, and they're getting some passing, and some good activity out of J.C. Watts.
J.C. Watts has done a great job the 2nd half. He has moved his club at will, both in the air and on the ground.
He's got a 2nd and 10 situation now from the Owls' 20-yard line. Puts it up. It's complete. Good catch by Chris Woods. Just shy of the first down.
Well, when you have things working, you can come up and go any play you want to, any pass pattern. J.C. Watts has got the receivers breaking into the post, and then he comes back as he's got Chris Woods running down and out, and he's hitting him there. So he's coming up with the big plays at the critical times with out patterns and post patterns.
You're leading by 27 points. You're 3rd and 1. I don't think there's any question. You're going to go for it. Although I suppose if you wanted to pull back on putting some points on the board, you might elect to go for the 3, but the Argos are going to go for it. They give it to Willie Miller, and I believe he stopped. The Alouettes did a good job in plugging the hole against Willie Miller. Mark Hopkins leading the way.
Yeah, I think there's not much doubt about it. I don't really believe he got far enough across that line. Looked to me like he had to get it to about 9.5, and I know the Montreal offense has already started on the field, so we'll see.
Little lack of intensity, I thought, there on the part of the Argos. Looked like they were going through the motions. Well, they marked it a first down. A lot of red shirts around the ball. Here it is again.
Well, it's just a straight lead play. William Miller carrying it. A lot of the red jerseys got him pushing back, and they came up a little bit short. Montreal's offense on the field, so it's first down the other way.
1st and 10, Montreal. Lewis at quarterback. And Lewis, one step too many. Rodney Harding was there to greet him as he came up inside the pocket.
One thing as a quarterback, you could tell when a defensive secondary is pretty much in zone in a lot of cases by how the defensive secondary is lined up. And in this case, Daryl Moyer is beginning to line up 15 yards deep before the snap of the ball, and before it snapped, drop back another 5. So you know that their back is holding on to that secondary.
We'll lose a couple of yards on the play. Let's make it 2nd and 12, Alouettes. Lewis to James Hood, and Hood brought down heavily at the 34-yard line. Good catch, but he paid the price.
Took a heck of a hit. Anytime the ball is in the air for any distance downfield in the middle of the field, you're going to have a collision. And this time, Daryl Moyer and Hood collided, and Hood definitely gets the worst of it. But as you said, he did hang on to the football, and he paid the price for this hit. There it is. The ball's in the air a long way, and it attracts a crowd. The catch is made. Moyer catches Hood, and Hood's the injured ball player.
The thing about it, Ronnie, is that they're playing so deep back there in that secondary that they're allowing the ball to be thrown in that distance because they don't want to get beat deep. And like you said, Ron, when the ball has to travel that far, you have time to react back up to the area where the guy catches it, and Daryl Moyer made a good hit.
My fault, gentlemen. I called James Hood. It was Jacques Chapdelaine who went up and pulled that down.
Well, here's where you get the good look at it. Now, the ball's in the air like 25, 30 yards downfield. So Moyer's going to the ball. Chapdelaine's going to the ball. Chapdelaine gets the ball. Moyer gets him.
37-10, Toronto lead. We'll be back with more fourth quarter action right after this.
Brian Williams reminding you to stay with CBC Sports for all the excitement of Grey Cup 86. Saturday, November 29th, we'll have the parade live from Vancouver. I'll be in Vancouver as we anchor Sports Weekend live from under the dome. Then, of course, Sunday afternoon, November 30th, it is Grey Cup 86. We will have a special 90-minute pregame show followed by the game itself. As usual, for the best in sports, the best in Canadian football, CBC Sports is the place to be.
Brian, I attended a press conference in Montreal or in Vancouver earlier this week where they were talking about the Festival 86 in Vancouver. It is going to be a fun-filled week. There is something for everyone. You should check out the schedule if you're heading to Vancouver for Grey Cup. I think you'll enjoy Festival 86. 1st and 10 for the Alouettes. Lewis is going to run it. Does a good job in getting up to about the 47, 48-yard line before he's brought down by David Marshall.
Well, there's Jacques Chapdelaine. Took the hit looks like crossed his thighs where Daryl Moyer caught him with the shoulder pads, which is that's going to be a Charlie horse that he'll feel for the next week or so. He's going to have a long time to recuperate, though.
Daryl Moyer, of course, the former Montreal Alouette, now with the Argos, putting his former teammate on the sidelines with that good hit, good clean hit. 1st and 10, Montreal. They get to Faulkner, and Faulkner tripped up before he can get back to the original line of scrimmage.
Well, Montreal just trying to run the football. They're still calling the plays for Walter Lewis from the sideline. You see him looking over. Brian Ransom signals them into him.
A loss of 2 on the play. 2nd and 12 for Montreal. 37-10 Toronto lead. 4th quarter action here in Montreal. Lewis intends that for Gil Stiegel, but it's incomplete.
For some reason, the balls are sailing today on the Montreal quarterbacks. Almost all of them have been high. Chuck, tell them why. Why does the ball sail on you?
Well, I think it was your philosophy about the air. And I think in Montreal, I think the air is a little different than it is out west. Is that right?
Definitely a lighter air, is it not? Or a heavier air? I'm confused. I never
heavy air
understood
from
it from
the ground up. See, so it pushes it up.
Okay.
You guys really get on me about that. I tell you what, I got all kind of theories. Of course, none of them are any good, but they're mine.
That's true. Heavy air, light air.
One thing about my theories, everybody, no one takes the credit for them but me, because no one agrees with them.
Andrew Zishin got good air on that one. And Edwards takes it out of bounds at the 21-yard line, forced out of bounds by Glenn Colcott.
Glenn Colcott was acquired by Montreal from the Edmonton Eskimos in a trade that took Brian Illerbrun from Montreal to Edmonton, who was then traded to Saskatchewan. But Colcott is a young football player, played down in Bakersfield Junior College for a while. Now Gary Turchik says he's going to be a pretty good football player.
See, I told you they were going to put Conrad Holloway into the ball game. Holloway in a quarterback for the Argos. 1st and 10 from the 21. He pitches to Miller. And Miller cuts it up. Has the first down. Terry Irvin over there to make the stop. Boy, you've got to be impressed with the way this Miller has run the ball this afternoon.
Well, it's like we said, he doesn't like being a backup running back. He wants to be the starter. And the way he's played today, he has to get some consideration. He just takes the toss, gets some good blocks by Hudson, and then outside takes on Terry Irvin, but Irvin brings him down, but not before he gets 12 yards and another first down.
Spot the ball at the 35-yard line. Holloway again pitching to Willie Miller. I guess you figure if it works once, why not go again?
Well, as Roddy's pointed out earlier, they're going to probably use the system where they're going to run on first down and pass when they have to on second down. Use up as much time as they can in the clock. And the man they can go to is William Miller. He's been playing hard the whole game, running very well. And if he gets the opportunity, he can take one all the way.
You know, if you're Bob Obilovich, you have to be happy with the performance of William Miller. And the main thing, there's nothing like competition for a job. Cedric Minard down there, he sees William Miller playing well. He'll get healthy for you in a hurry. You don't want to ever lose your job.
That's guaranteed a quick cure. Holloway is going to pass for the first time in the game. And he almost found his man who was down on the ground.
It's Bob Obilovich. He's got to be feeling much better about this game and about the offensive performance that he was hoping to have. He's been taking a lot of criticism lately about a lot of changes and a lot of things that have happened with that offensive team. And today they put together a good play.
You don't think he was getting any criticism from his general manager, do you?
I don't know.
No, Leo wouldn't do that.
That general manager watches that offense very closely.
And that general manager's about 2 feet away. We're going to talk to him in a couple of minutes. And Galisic in a punting situation for the Argos. Martin. Reverse to Treflin. And Treflin gets up to the 48-yard line, where Montreal will scrimmage 1st and 10. They trail in the ball game 37-10. From ear to ear, as well he might. Come on, smile. Is the general manager of the Toronto Argonauts, our former confrere of the broadcast booth, Leo Cahill. Leo, you've got to be impressed with what your club has done on the field today.
Well, we are very impressed, Steve, and it's the first time all year at this stage of the ball game I've been able to smile because our games have been so close. But you know, a lot of plaudits go to individuals today. William Miller, as you've all mentioned, has had a great game out there this afternoon. But the guy that gets my vote for the hero of the day today is Mark Napolitan, who plays offensive center, and you haven't seen number 71 that active in there today for Montreal. And Napolitan's a kid that came in Tuesday. He was with a fifth-round draft choice of Seattle and was with the Buffalo Bills this year. And he came in Tuesday and has worked this week and has played the whole ball game. And when Del Call went down, he made the deep snaps also. So this kid has just done a tremendous job, and he's really cemented that offensive line this afternoon. I think that's where a lot of our successes come from.
Just like old times, Leo, I ask you one question, you go forever. And Montreal get up 2 offensive plays. Ransom is back in a quarterback for the Alouettes, and he gets up to the 44-yard line.
Leo, some of those receivers for Toronto today, they've been as open as a white goat on a mountain. Did you notice that?
Yeah, that's right.
Did you notice that?
They sure have. I'll tell you, they got somebody from Montreal as open as that, too, one time there early in the ball game, which threw a little bit of a scare into us. But, you know, another guy that I want to point out that's just done a tremendous job is number 74, Darrell Smith, back in there. And he's going to be a fine young receiver. And, you know, there's a lot of these guys that are beginning to come of age now. And they're maybe just coming of age at the right time.
On a 1st and 10 situation, Ransom passing from the 45-yard line, completes to Sean Faulkner. Continue, Leo.
Leo, you got to be very happy with the performance of J.C. Watts under the circumstances.
I'll tell you one thing. I've been a J.C. Watts guy all along, and I've always felt, and you know, I talked with the coach over in Ottawa before when he was there in Ottawa, and he said that, you know, they were 5-1. When he got hurt one year, he felt that they could have gone all the way to the Grey Cup, and we picked him up, and a lot of people second-guessed our picking him up, and I just feel he's an outstanding guy. And Perry Moss, an old coach I used to coach with, says those leopards don't change their spots.
Oh, right.
If you're a winner and if you have a consistency in winning, you're going to do that in the future, and JC is just coming into his own now with our football team. This game will really do him an awful lot of good.
Leo, next week, I don't think people really realize how much of a rivalry there is between Hamilton and Toronto, but I know you do from a long time ago. I think that that's going to be a war. What's your feelings?
Well, I don't think there's any question about that, Ron. And one of the real things that I used to enjoy when I was coaching was that rivalry, because you know, you talk about a lot of rivalries, but I don't think there's any more heated than that. And no one used to be safe anywhere between Toronto on the highways between Toronto and Hamilton. And it's going to be that way again. And, you know, they're going to be waiting for us, and they're a good football team, and we're going to have to play our best. But I think we're coming of age at the right time.
Are you going to wear your equipment next week, just in case? I mean, you love that rivalry. I think you can play next week.
I'm going to go with a mustache so nobody will recognize it.
How about a sellout in both ballparks? Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice?
I think that there's a good chance that Hamilton will sell out next week in anticipation of us being there. And if we have the good fortune to hold that game close coming back into Toronto, I think the Toronto fans are going to respond too, because they know what a rivalry this is, and they want to watch it too.
Meanwhile, back at the football game here in Montreal, Ransom completes over the middle to Gerald Alphin. And Alphin picks up the first down with many, many yards to spare. Gets it down just outside the 20-yard line.
Well, when you take a look at the Montreal offense now, the defense of Toronto is just sitting back and giving them as much as they can. They don't want to give up too much here and make a mistake and let them get a touchdown. I'm sure they would like to stop them here, but right now they're trying to use up that clock so they can go out of here with the first place win.
1st and 10, Montreal from the Argos 22-yard line. Ransom with some time, complete over the middle. Greg Holmes pulling that one down for Montreal.
Yeah, how about David Marshall? You know, here's a guy that came in this year, and he's a pretty good middle linebacker. Tell us about him.
Well, we really like him. You know, he's playing on his option, and we want to get with him just as quickly as possible, because he's a fine football player, and as you say, Ron, he's the guy that kind of has been in the shadows the last couple of years, just playing well enough to be a regular, but this year he came into his own, and he's one of the better linebackers in the league right now.
2nd down for the Alouettes. Wes Cooper at the 10. Cooper down at the 7-yard line.
Will this game ever be over?
You're not nervous, surely. 37-10. This one's in the bag, Leo.
I think we're going to be all right now.
I think you were all right at about the 2-minute mark in the third quarter. I don't think there was any doubt that the Argos were going to pull this one off. Those 2 quick touchdowns, I think, put it away. Took a lot of steam out of Montreal. Although the Alouettes are now 1st and goal to go, they pitch it out. Touchdown, Tony Johns. And the small crowd here in the Olympic Stadium finally has something to cheer about.
Well, it's just a sweep to the outside. He just pitched it to Tony Johns and let him just try to beat the defense to the outside. He got a good block around the end, and taking it in from 6 yards out is not a hard task from Tony Johns if you get that block on the corner.
Zenon Andrusichin is not into the game. The Alouettes are going for the 2 points. Following the touchdown, Ransom looking for somebody to pass to, in and out of the arms of the intended receiver. So the Montreal Alouettes fail on their 2-point attempt. The score goes to 37-16 in favor of the Argos. I want to thank Leo Cahill for joining us. We're going to take a short timeout and be back with the remainder of the 4th quarter from Montreal in just a moment. Welcome back to the Olympic Stadium in Montreal, where it is now 37-16 in favor of the Toronto Argonauts as they move ever closer to clinching 1st place in the CFL's Eastern Division and the home field advantage in the 2-game Total Point Eastern Final, which gets underway next weekend, possibly in Hamilton. We keep saying possible, but I don't think there's any question that that's exactly what the Argonauts will choose to do. Play the 1st game in Hamilton and the 2nd game in Toronto. This is Edwards. Stopped at the 30. Rayford Cooks there to make the tackle for the Owls. Conrad Holloway coming out of the field to direct the Toronto offense. Svelte looking, he's not. Although, in fairness to Conrad, a lot of that is protection, right, Chuck?
Definitely. You got to wear those rib pads. And Ronnie, you wore those, didn't you?
I'm not talking.
You kind of reminded me of Lancaster the way he was running on the field there. William Miller taking that handoff from Holloway, getting back to the original line of scrimmage before he ran into Brett Williams.
I figure I was always built for comfort, not speed.
I heard that.
Well, you know, it's good to see Leo in the 1st year as general manager with the Argonauts finish 1st. We had a lot of fun up here in the booth. I knew sooner or later he'd give us one of those lepers don't change their spot. He's got a million of them. You just need to get him going.
But, you know, he's still not smiling. He's still not convinced the Argos had this one won.
Well, I guess, you know, I think
old habits don't die as a coach.
That's right.
It's not over till it's over.
Yeah. I don't. Bob Obilovich probably isn't smiling either, but I think when he looks up at the score clock and he sees 37-16, I think he can relax a little bit.
Oh, definitely. I think he knows that this game is in hand for him. But like you said, Leo has never been able to sort of sit down and rest.
2nd down repeated.
He wants to make sure it's really over.
Well, like all good coaches, I think he would like more from his offense and maybe tighten up the defense a little bit. He's probably never come away from a game without an area to improve upon, I'm sure.
Always room for improvement.
Holloway out of the shotgun. Incomplete over the middle. He was looking for Pearson. Pearson had a piece of it, but was unable to hang on to the ball, thanks in large part to David Martin. There's the young man that Leo was referring to.
Well, it's funny, Leo starts talking about those centers because Leo's an old center from way back. He brought up a center.
Hank Olesic into punt. 3rd down situation for the Argos. He'll get it away from his own 25-yard line. Takes an Argo bounce, hits an Alouette, and it's scooped up there by David Martin, who has no chance whatsoever to return it, due in large part to the crazy bounce it took. That's an artificial turf bounce.
Yeah, that wasn't one of Hank's better kicks.
Speaking of artificial turf, an interesting article in Sports Illustrated last week on injuries in football, and they lay a lot of the blame on the artificial turf in the stadia around North America.
Well, I think they have a lot of people that would agree with them. And it's, you know, you think back when you're a kid, everything was meant to be played outside and on natural grass. Technology being the way it is, we're not ever going to get rid of it, I don't think.
Ransom intending that one for Wes Cooper, incomplete. Gary Durchik taking the opportunity now to take a look at some of his youngsters. Wes Cooper hasn't had that much playing time all season long. He's now into the ball game. Has been in the last couple of series for the Alouettes. Ransom under pressure. And in and out of the arms of Wes Cooper, who was coming back but couldn't quite get back far enough.
You know, while we have minutes, Steve, we ought to wish those 4 remaining CIAU teams good luck next week. There's some good football teams that still in the running. You know, I had the opportunity to see UBC the other night. I've seen the Western Mustangs play. I tell you what, they're 2 excellent, well-coached football teams, and everybody says that's who's going to meet in that Vanier Cup. I'm sure that Bishops and Acadia will have something to say about it, but whoever wins it, it's going to be a good game.
Acadia and Western in the Atlantic Bowl at St. Mary's. Next weekend, they're having a big Atlantic Bowl reunion there. Sorry I can't get to it. Wish them the best of luck. Swapping a lot of lies, I'm sure. Braisley takes it out at the 33-yard line. So another chance to look at this Toronto Argonaut offense. Just under 4 minutes to play in the ball game. Again, we remind you that the scoreboard clock here at the Olympic Stadium has been out of operation since the opening moments in the first quarter, but there are just under 4 minutes to play now. Our computer's also been out of whack.
I've been keeping it in my head. What would you like to know?
I noticed that. Been filling in the blanks rather nicely. Conrad Holloway, quarterback for the Argos. Out of the shotgun, high snap, handled well by Holloway. Just dumps it off up the middle to Shiroska. And Shiroska does well to get up across the 40-yard line. Will Coakley pulling him down from behind.
Well, I think Conrad Holloway would have liked to have gotten in a lot earlier than he did. But the way that J.C. Watts was playing, you had to go with him. He had the hot hand. He was playing well and moving the offense. And now Conrad just has to pick up things where J.C. left off. And he takes a good hit. He's ready to get back in the game. And hello, he's back in the game, and they welcome you back, those big guys.
Doug Scott wanted one more shot before the game was over.
Holloway to Brock. Brock just puts his head down at the 45-yard line, and that bought him 3 or 4 extra yards. Took on Matt Finley, and I think Finley came out of that worse for wear. Less than 4 minutes to play in the fourth quarter here in Montreal. It's the Argos on top of the Owls, 37-16. Cahill, the general manager of the Argos, is smiling from ear to ear. I'm not sure that Al Bruno, the head coach of the Hamilton Ticats, has been smiling from ear to ear watching the Argos in operation this afternoon.
It's one of those things, you know, we're in the playoffs, and we meet Toronto next week and the week after that, so that's what we're waiting for. So regardless of how it turned out, we're still in there.
Have you been impressed with what you've seen from the Argos?
Yeah, they showed me a good running game today. First Montreal, after that long 111-yard punt return was called back, I think Toronto's coming on. They're running the ball well, and Watson's running and throwing well, and I'll tell you, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Ronnie, I know you've got a question for the coach of the Hamilton Ticats. Shoot.
Well, you played the game Friday night against Ottawa. Did you come out of it? How'd you come out injury-wise as you get ready for the...
Well, the only injury we had, Ronnie, was Les Brown come down with a bad pull in his knee area, and but they say he'd be all right, just bruised, and so he's the only casualty. Of course, Tony Champion had a slightly back sore back there when he hit the ground, but he'd be all right too.
I asked Leo, a lot of people don't realize how big a rivalry it is between Hamilton and Toronto. You've been around there a long time. Maybe you can explain it to the people.
I've been around not too long around, but every time Hamilton and Toronto get together, I can remember when I played against Hamilton when I played for Toronto years ago, and 2-game total points. We tied the 2 games. We had to play a 3rd game, and it got us an extra paycheck. And I was talking to Peter Martin, 72, 2-game total points again. So, you know, I kind of hope they bring that back and give us a genuine winner and excitement back and fill the ballparks out.
Al, it looks like you're going to have the first game in Hamilton, the second game in Toronto. Does that make any difference to you?
No, not whatsoever. It's just right. I can throw that far, you know. It's just one of those things where when Toronto and Hamilton get together, like I said, regardless of where you play, it's going to be a tough series.
Leo said that there won't be anybody safe anywhere between Hamilton and Toronto in the next 2 weeks. So that about sums it up, doesn't it?
Only an active God can change that. Ronnie,
you're taking Leo.
I like that. Well, I'll tell you, that's good.
Ejection. Toronto number 66. Ejection.
When we talk about the feud between the Toronto Argonauts and the Hamilton Ticats, the feelings here at Olympic Stadium are running pretty strong between the Toronto Argonauts and the Montreal Alouettes. That could be a freeway scene between Hamilton and Toronto next week.
I think those guys just want to get in and get the hot water.
I think they can't wait till the game's over. And like you say, Ryan, go in there and get a shower and get out of there and get ready for next year.
Yeah, this is a tough situation on a team that's eliminated to look up there and know you're not going to win the football game. It's awful frustrating, and those things will happen.
You're certainly right. They can happen.
A punting situation for the Argonauts. Taken by Martin. He's at the 35 and does well to get up to the 38-yard line, where once again the Montreal Alouette offense will get a chance to move the ball. David Marshall and Willie Pless there to bring down the Montreal Alouette ball carrier. Chuck Ely, you must have a question for the head coach of the Hamilton Ticats. Shoot.
Well, I'm just wondering, Coach, do you think there's going to be a big sellout and the fans in Hamilton will be there just rooting you on next week?
Chuck, I hope there's as many people in our park as when you took them to the Grey Cup that year. I think
you had to bring that up, Al.
Well, you know, you got to join the family, right?
Sometime.
I was kind of hoping he would sort of sneak it in there through the back door, you know.
He did.
Well, I know one thing about it. Those Hamilton fans, when they get especially into a game situation like this where there's a lot of rivalry between Toronto and Hamilton, I play for both of them, that they come out in droves and really pump up that Hamilton Tiger Cat team. And I think it's going to be a good home and away series for both Toronto and Hamilton.
We've got a lot of good rivalries going into the playoffs. We've got Calgary against Edmonton. We've got Winnipeg against BC, and we've got Hamilton against Toronto.
Great series all the way around, right across the country. I just hope the fans get out there and really see some good football during the playoffs, and I just hope we have a great cup game.
Pass over the middle, well taken at the midfield stripe. Stiegel had his hands on it. Now, whether they rule it was complete or incomplete, the indication now is it was incomplete, and Stiegel really paid the price for pulling that one down.
Well, they're just sitting back there now waiting for them to catch it and react onto them and make the hit. They know that they don't want to play man. They're just playing in the zone and let them catch it and then hit them.
You hate to see that, Al, at this stage in the game. A young guy going down when there's really nothing to be gained.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this guy's, he's making a living playing football, and you hate to see something like that happen. And when it does happen, you hope the guy's all right.
Al, does it make any difference to you whether the Argos go with Conrad Holloway or J.C. Watts as their starting quarterback?
No, not really. We played against both individuals. J.C. Watts, of course, he's a better runner, like you say. We respect him a little more than Conrad at this time because Conrad can't run like he used to, but he can still pinpoint those passes and hurt you that way.
And you're going to have a bit of a tough decision to make. Do you go with Hobart or Kerrigan?
That's a good question.
I'm glad I asked it.
I'm glad you did ask that. Both guys, great attitude. They help one another. I'm happy to have both of them, and I put one in, he bogs down. I put the other one in, he bogs down. But I'm hoping they both have great series this next 2 ball games, and I think both guys are going to play a very important part in the playoffs.
I hope they do.
Hey, Steve.
We want to thank you for joining us on the telecast this afternoon, Al Bruno, and good luck to the Hamilton Ticats against the Toronto Argonauts in the 2-game Total Point Eastern Final.
Thank you very much. It's always great to be among the best, I'll tell you. I mean that sincerely.
Our thanks to the head coach of the Hamilton Ticats, Al Bruno, for joining us. Ransom puts that up, and it's complete. Gerald Alphin.
Hey, Steve, when you ask Coach Bruno about whether it wants to face Holloway or what, now, see, Bob Obilovich is going to say he wants to go with the guy with a hot hand. Bruno wants to face the guy with the cold hand.
You got that right. But neither Toronto Argonaut quarterback has come up with a cold hand in this one, although certainly Holloway has been less impressive than J.C. Watts. Ransom airs that one out. I think that was a case of mixed-up signals on the part of somebody. There was no red shirt within 20 yards of that ball.
No, Hood ran a hook, turned to the inside, and Ransom figured him to go deep, and he just threw it as far as he could, and of course nobody was back there.
37-16, the score here in Montreal. The Argos just a few moments away now from wrapping up first place in the CFL's Eastern Division. And the long and frustrating season will be over for the Alouettes. Ransom complete to Faulkner at the 50, and Faulkner is knocked back a couple of yards after taking possession of the ball.
Well, that's a real scary situation when Faulkner caught that ball in the flat and one guy is holding him up, and you know you can't get loose or go away, and you see another linebacker charging at you. You just want to get down and protect yourself.
Well, it's a third down situation. You're trailing 37-16. Your season is over. I see no reason why you wouldn't go for it, and that's exactly what the Alouettes are going to do now. 3rd and 8, ball at the 50. Ransom, lots of time, over the middle, complete. Gerald Alphin down at the 30.
Well, that's just a good read by Ransom. The linebackers, as Chuck said, they're just sitting back playing a zone. You just go down there and find the hole and hope the quarterback finds you. And Ransom found them, and they get the first down, so the 3rd down gamble really wasn't a gamble. There's nothing to it.
Minute and 2 seconds unofficially remaining to play in the ball game. And there goes the minute flag up on the sideline, so we know that they used up 2 seconds on that incompleted pass attempt.
Again, Brian Ransom and the quarterbacks are throwing that ball high. Now, you could attribute that to the linebackers being underneath and trying to get it over. And if that linebacker is in the way of the direct path of your ball, wait till that receiver curls around him a little further towards the inside and throw it on one side of it. They're throwing over the top and they're throwing the ball high and can't get it in there. Good defense by the Toronto Argonauts as well.
2nd and 10 for Montreal. The ball at the 30. Ransom setting up the screen. Faulkner. And Faulkner down inside the 25-yard line. Willie Pless, Mark Seal combining to make the stop. Doesn't look too happy, does he?
What he's concerned about right now is let's, play good, hard, tough football, but we don't want any injuries. And the main thing is just to keep playing. You won't get hurt then.
Because if you let down on that intensity, that's when you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, you don't ever stand around on a football field. Somebody will hit you.
Ransom in and out of the arms of Stiegel. And that was a 3rd down pass attempt on the part of the Alouettes to keep the drive alive. It backfires, so the Argos will take over on downs.
And also, Ronnie, I think that Coach Obilovich from the sideline wants to make sure that there is no let-up as far as them scoring another touchdown. Even though they are ahead of the game, you still want to keep that pride and that intensity up where you don't let a team come back and score 2 or 3 touchdowns with you late in the game.
Right now, what he's telling them, we have less than a minute left. Let's kill this minute and get it over with and make sure you utilize it properly. Let's use that 20 seconds before the ball snapped. You got the time clock in the corners. All you have to do is look at it, but let's just end it.
The ball's at the 22-yard line. 1st and 10 Argos. Holloway gives to Miller, and Miller goes nowhere, just runs into the line. And I wouldn't want to think that they'd want to run Willie Miller too many times because he has done an outstanding job for them. They want to keep him healthy for the Eastern Final.
I just watched it down there. Those guys don't seem to like one another. Dan Ferrone is chasing he's chasing the guy across the field. trying to start some trouble. And Schultz was trying to get into something. Just let's get this thing over. Dave Daniels and Ferroni didn't seem to see eye to eye. Let's see what happens.
2nd and 10, and again it's Miller who crosses the 25-yard line. Burns up some more time on the clock.
Chris Schultz at about 6'8" and 280 pounds. I don't know who'd want to mess with him to begin with.
No, I'd call him sir a lot. He is a big boy. And Bob Obilovich is glad that he's on his side right now.
Holloway wants to know how much time's left. That's what he's doing back there because the clock's not working, and Obilovich would like to know. Okay, so if there's 19 seconds, he can kill it.
Well, I think the Montreal Alouettes are trying to call a timeout.
Not only is Ron Harrison directing this game, but he's also keeping the scoreboard clock. 19 seconds remaining to play. That much time separating the Argos from the title in the Eastern Division and the right to call the shots on the Eastern Final. They'll play the first game in Hamilton, the second game in Toronto. Of course, that has not been announced officially yet, but we assume that that's exactly what Leo Cahill and Bob Obilovich of the Toronto Argonaut organization will want to do, and have the second game as the home game in the 2-game total point final. "19 seconds. And they're going to punt it away. Hank Ilisic will get this away from the 15-yard line. A low spiral will be taken by Martin if he can get to it before it goes out of bounds. It doesn't. It rolls out of bounds at the 41-yard line. So with a few seconds remaining to play in the game, the Montreal Alouette offense will get a chance to put some more points on the ball, on the board, all purely academic here at this stage in the game. Well, that burned up another 8 seconds. We have 11 seconds remaining to play. 1st and 10, Montreal. The ball's at the 41-yard line. Ransom fires over the middle, complete. Greg Holmes. Holmes still going. And finally dragged down inside the 50-yard line of the Toronto Argonauts by Rodney Harding. And there goes the gun. The game is over. The Toronto Argonauts are the 1986 Eastern Division champions, having knocked off the Montreal Alouettes here at the Olympic Stadium this afternoon by a score of 37-16. We'll be back with more right after this.
Today's Carling O'Keefe Game Stars will each receive a Royal Canadian Mint 1-ounce gold coin, presented by Tilly, quality in leather goods and travelwear, and by Nita, just great copiers, nothing else.
And we're pleased to announce that the Carling O'Keefe Game Stars are J.C. Watts on offense for the Toronto Argonauts and Marlon Jones on defense for the Toronto Argonauts. I think pretty good selections, gentlemen.
Well, I think J.C. had an outstanding game as far as his play, called the right plays, made the right decisions, and audibled enough times to do the right things.
It was pretty tough on defense, Ronnie.
Well, I think the Toronto Argonaut defense dominated the entire day, and there's 3 or 4 guys over there I thought played really well today, and Marlon Jones, he's kind of been their leader.
I think the way that J.C. Watts handled the Toronto Argonaut offense today was a really solid job, and I think that augurs well for the 2-game total point Eastern Final coming up next week. We'll see you in the playoffs. Right now, let's go to CFL Control and Brian Williams.
All right, thank you, Steve Armitage, and welcome back, everyone, to CFL Control in Toronto. The Toronto Argonauts wrapping up first place in the CFL's Eastern Conference for 1986. Let's take a look at the final standings. Toronto with 20 points, Hamilton with 19, Montreal and Ottawa missed the playoffs. It has been a brutal year for the Eastern Conference. Toronto and Hamilton will play a 2-game total point series. The Argos will take the second game at home. That means next week you will see Toronto opening at Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton. The Western Conference standings, Edmonton is playing playing Saskatchewan right now. It will not change the standings. It will stay Edmonton, BC, Winnipeg, Calgary, and Saskatchewan. So the Western playoff structure is as follows. Next Saturday afternoon, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, after losing last night, play in BC. Remember, the Lions have won 2 straight over the Bombers. They will try and make it 3 in a row in as many weeks. And next Sunday afternoon, it'll be the battle for football supremacy in the province of Alberta as the Calgary Stampeders, the franchise all but dead before the season, coming back with a tremendous season in 1986. The Calgary Stampeders going against Jackie Parker's Edmonton Eskimos at the Commonwealth Stadium. Again, the final score today, and don't forget our games next weekend, 4 o'clock Eastern on Saturday, 4:30 Eastern on Sunday for Calgary and Edmonton. Good night from CFL Control.
The best of Canadian professional football, the CFL on CBC. And we thank you for watching Carling O'Keefe CFL football. The CFL on CBC is a live presentation of CBC Sports.
This is CBC Television.
Alberta.